Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight we got a special one. I'm going to introduce it. I'm going to lead it. But let me introduce everybody. We have Chrissy, aka C the Superior. We have Vic, aka
Hi.
the Mark.
Hey,
And we
everybody.
also have Chris, aka the Executive Consultant. And me, set piece tonight.
Oh man.
Great intro. Great intro. Thank you.
How's everybody doing tonight?
It was great. It was straight into the point, wasn't it? It was welcome to the show. Let's cut off all the BS. We got a good one for you. Down and right under. Good job.
That was awesome.
So everybody's doing well?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Excited to talk about the movie.
All right, yeah. So tonight we're going to talk about Avengers 2012. It's the first time we had the first billion-dollar Marvel film, the one everybody loves to talk about, the one that set it all up, the one that showed Hollywood that it could be done. So we all have different opinions, some good, bad, positive, negative, however you want to look at it. But it did set it all up. So credit due, the same way Donner's 78 Superman film did for the superhero genre. So this is 2012.
Another one I can't wait for.
Would you say Chris, for the Richard Donner Superman?
Yeah, I was watching that the other day. Actually, I really want to review that one, so I can't wait for that one.
What were you watching that one on?
Huh?
What were you watching that one on?
Superman, 1978.
No, I mean what platform was that on?
1978.
Oh, I just the Fire Stick.
Okay.
Yeah. 1978.
It
Christopher Reeve. You're defining Superman, I might add, because that's your favorite, if I remember correctly.
is.
Vic, the Mark.
Yeah, it is my favorite Superman.
I'm curious. What did you think of Brandon Routh when he? I know we're digressing, everybody watching this, but what did you think of Brandon Routh's imitation of Christopher Reeve in Superman Returns?
Who, me or Mark?
No, Mark.
You don't seem too happy.
No.
I thought it was pretty good because it was an imitation of what he did. You know what I mean? Like, but you weren't a fan of it.
No, because it was a sensitive situation with Christopher Reeves. You know?
What's good, Ann?
You're talking about the wheelchair situation, right?
No. I mean, because basically Superman Returns is a pickup right after I think Superman 2.
Superman 2.
I mean? So like Brandon Routh, he was told basically, I want you to imitate what Christopher Reeve did with the character of Clark Kent and Superman.
Okay. With the cameo. Okay.
Oh, no.
I'm thinking something completely different. The second Superman was the worst one out of all of them, as far as the old Superman. So
what?
The third and fourth were better. The second one was.
Are you kidding me? All right, we need to talk about Avengers because this episode's about to go to a whole completely different direction when he says that. I can't believe this says Superman. First of all, he asked you how was Brandon Routh's cloning of Christopher Reeve. Was it as good as Christopher Reeve or was it not as good as Christopher Reeve? Second of all, Superman 2 was the best one of the series. 3 and 4 were not.
You didn't like when he
It wasn't that good. I'm sorry. It just wasn't. I don't think it was.
Oh, Chrissy about to take charge. Okay. She got the hand out.
It might just be because I'm partial to Christopher Reeves.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I don't think it was as good, in my opinion. But honestly, you know what? We can get into that when we get into.
We'll get into that later. I'm sorry.
All right, Chrissy's bringing us back on track. Chrissy's bringing us back on track. All right,
you're right.
Go ahead. Let's talk Avengers, right? 2012 from 1978. We go to 2012.
Obviously, we're gonna do Superman. So
Summer 2012, May 4th, opening night for
Great
the
month,
Avengers.
I might add.
Now, I'm not sure if anybody remembered actually going to the theaters to see it. I honestly can't remember if I saw it on like DVD or if I went straight to movie theaters. Anybody see it in movie theaters when it came out?
I think I saw it in the movie theater.
I definitely saw it in the movie theater a few times. I might add.
Nah, I think I saw it on DVD.
I think I saw it on DVD, but I was impressed.
Everybody that saw it in the movie theater, was it a definite you had to see it at midnight or the 10 o'clock show or whatever like that?
That was definitely one of the ones I had to see at midnight. At that time, it was just midnight. Then they start adding the 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock shows that they have now. Well, they don't have anything now, but it was definitely midnight. So had to see it.
Do you remember why or what leading up to the Avengers made you want to see it, or just simply because this is the
Sure.
first time
Iron Man 1, and the fact that they did a very good job building up to it. I mean, even though some of the movies are crap, shout out to Iron Man 2. There definitely was a good build up to this movie that I was interested in seeing.
Okay. Chrissy, you said that you saw it, or you think you saw it in the movie theater?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even remember. My memory is so bad. That's why I'm glad I get to rewatch it and relive it recently.
The sad thing is she's the youngest one of all four of us, and her memory is bad.
Yeah, my memory is crap. I have the worst memory. I don't know why. I don't know. I need some more, I guess, fish oil or whatever. But anyway, I did watch the movie. I did watch the Avengers. I think it was Monday night, so it's fresh in my mind pretty much. The first scene, opening scene, we get kind of like an ominous voice, and we're in like kind of like a dark area. I want to say it was outer space, and we don't really see a person, but we see exchanging of a weapon, and it looks like it was like some sort of staff, and we learned that through a couple scenes later that it was actually Loki, and he was handed the staff to kind of go down to Earth to retrieve the Tesseract.
Yeah.
During that time, SHIELD and Nick Fury and all the other agents were attempting to, I guess, kind of, research the Tesseract in a way. They had it all set up, but it started to malfunction and would do things that they wouldn't want it to do, which was told to us by Eric, Dr. Eric Selvig, I want to say.
Selvig.
Might be saying
Selvig, yes.
Selvig. And that's when we discovered that it's been acting kind of funky. Also, in that same year, reintroduced to Hawkeye. He's there kind of like watching over everything, making sure everything kind of goes, I guess, safety-wise, everything goes pretty much okay. And
what I got from that was like, from what Nick Fury said to him, he's looking at everybody to make sure nobody's trying to take anything, nobody's doing anything that they shouldn't be doing. Because he clears Dr. Selvig. He says that he's on the up and up. Nobody's been near it. You know what I mean?
He's top flight security. Top flight security.
Yeah. It was like
Endgame is the best because Batista's in it.
But the funny thing, he was there for security reasons. Like, he was the one who thought that, hey, this thing might go both ways. It's not just a one direction kind of communicator. It could be something happening on the other side. I think he said a door has two openings or something like that.
Open both ways.
And once he said that, that's when, Flash, everything happens. Loki appears in the facility and like chaos ensues. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to pause right there because I thought that was kind of weird. I know this is all in the intro scene, up until when you were about to say when Loki appears and everything like that. But I thought it was very interesting that Hawkeye, who is not a scientist, at least to our knowledge, we haven't been shown that he's a trained killer, a spy, a killer. He's the only one that thought that, well, this is quite normal actually for Tesseract, that one, it's a power source. So why would it turn off when you chose to turn it off? It's power. The sun doesn't go out when you close your eyes, right? And two, the point that he made that Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD, found amazing was when he described it as a doorway, right? Because that's what they said it was. So if it's a doorway, who doesn't know what a door does? If you're in the room, if you're out of the room, if you're in the house or out of the house, you all know what a door does. So why was Nick Fury? I thought that was a little weird that Nick Fury, and this is the beginning of things that I see throughout this movie. Why is Nick Fury astounded, and why does he not know everything that's going on if he's the director of this top secret agency?
Yeah, and why did Eric, who's the doctor, who's I guess
why wouldn't he know?
Yeah,
why wouldn't he know that? And more to the
is he really the top agent of the agency though? Like,
he's
who are those people that he talks to? Who are those people?
Those are the council members. He can't make a unilateral military strike, let's say, right? Without because those are elected people throughout the world, right? So if he were to just make a unilateral decision that took place in China, it might have ramifications. But if there was someone that's from that sphere, like we see I assume the guy was Indian or Pakistani, you know, the representative in Winter Soldier when he's there. You remember when they're all there with
He is in everything.
I forget in Winter Soldier, but in that room, you see different people from all over. That lady, the same lady is there. She's British, I think, you know. So I'm assuming like the World Council, you know what I mean?
Yes. And then I remember Black
Widow. I still don't understand why no one figured that out but Hawkeye. But
yeah, it didn't make sense to me. Yeah. Like why would Dr. Selvig know that?
That's when he took over Hawkeye's body using the his staff. I forget the name of his staff. But he pressed it to his chest. All of a sudden, the eyes went like silver blue, and he's in control of Loki. And the same thing happened.
Now, somebody tell me, please, is this the Mind Stone that was in that scepter?
Is it?
I think that's the Mind Stone, is it not?
That's in. Oh, you mean the Tesseract?
No.
In the scepter.
But in the scepter,
his alien weapon that when he touches the heart, it controls the mind. Yeah, that's the Mind Stone. Apparently, it has to go through the order to get up to the brain.
I got that jab that you threw, Chris. I saw that. That was.
I'm just saying. All I'm saying is he touches the heart.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. So, if Loki's staff is a stone and the Tesseract is a stone, there's two stones in this movie.
You're getting to my point. Keep going. Yep. Keep going.
What? Hey, there's two stones in this movie?
Keep going.
Like, wait, what stone is the Tesseract then? I forget. Wait, hold on. When Thanos broke, we jumping. When Thanos broke the thing, what stone was that?
That was the Space Stone. That's what gave him the
teleportation. The Tesseract?
Yeah, when he teleports, you know, and the portal opens up, that's the Space Stone. That's why they took the Asgard, how they went up in the portal. They didn't have to use the Bifrost or anything. They can go anywhere.
Okay, so Loki's staff is another stone. So, okay. Well, at that point, we were calling it a Tesseract. We didn't know about stones. So, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
But here's the problem with that. The guy that we hear, the voice in the beginning, at least as far as I can tell, his name is the Other, right? The head of the Chitauri, I guess, right? The general. He's talking to Thanos. Spoiler alert for those who've seen the end of the movie, the post credits. He's talking to Thanos, right?
I still wanted to see that.
I'm sorry, Chris. I apologize, but he's talking to somebody. We know that Other's talking to somebody.
You haven't seen this movie before?
He's being facetious.
Okay.
Right? But here's the thing, to your point, right?
Black Widow
had the Mind Stone, which literally can get people to do anything.
Man, loves no joke.
And he gives it to Loki to conquer the Earth, even though Loki is already superhumanly strong and he has an army at his beck and call.
Thanos
Infinity Stone. Loki didn't really have a motive, I feel like, to take over Earth. Besides, what was his motive to come to?
Our name, set piece. Set piece. We're gonna get to that because this movie is nothing but set pieces. It makes no sense.
True.
Why is Loki there?
Set up for more movies.
There's a logical explanation why Loki's there. I can't believe y'all missed it. He wanted to take over Earth. He couldn't get Asgard. He wanted to be king and ruler of Earth. Y'all need to ask more questions like, how did he get there? That's more of an interesting question.
But here's the thing. He never cared about Earth. He just wanted Earth to spite his father.
Right. No. He wanted to be king of Asgard. When he did not become king of Asgard because Thor took his hammer, shined it up real nice, he said, hey, I'll take second best. I'll go down to Earth. I'll go rule Hydro Castle as opposed to Rainbow Road. And that's why he came down to Earth and he started to try to do something there. Unfortunately, his brother, who I don't know how got there because the end of your lovely movie Thor, the Rainbow Road was broken. He was there.
In this movie, he uses dark energy. It's the same one that Heimdall uses in Endgame. Remember
what you say, set piece?
No.
I didn't hear set piece.
Heimdall uses his dark energy to send Banner back to Earth in Endgame. Odin has the same can manipulate the same energy, and he used it. Remember, Loki says, "How much dark energy did Father have to use to get you here, since your beloved Bifrost?"
Well, how come he hasn't seen Jane? He didn't use his energy to go see Jane, and it's supposed to be the love of his life.
Because it's an unnecessary thing. Remember, a king wouldn't do that, and he wouldn't use unnecessary energy to just see some woman he loved, as opposed to save the planet. It's not a romance. They don't do illogical things like that. They do other illogical things, but not that. That doesn't make any sense. And besides, remember,
Loki takes over the body of Hawkeye. He takes over the body of Dr. Eric, and he escapes with the Tesseract, which leads us to the next scene after that is with Black Widow. She's in the midst of an interrogation. She's chained to the chair. She's trying to get this information from this guy, and all of a sudden she gets a call from Agent Coulson. Now, speaking of the segues in the first couple minutes of this movie are spectacular. Like the first segue was after he tells her that we need the big guy or something like that. She holds on, she kicks everybody's ass from the chair, which was super badass. I'm glad she finally got she got an early badass moment. Like that was just hers. I appreciate that. And then the segue was something like, "Oh, you got to get the big guy," and she said, "Oh, Stark hates me." She's like, "No, the real big guy." And we segue over to the Hulk, who we find out is in I want to say it's India, and he's kind of there on trying to where was it that he was located at? Do you remember?
He was in India. He was a doctor just helping people.
Then we see him, and he's there trying to help people, and he Black Widow was able to lure him over to this kind of secluded area where she was able to convince him to join up with S.H.I.E.L.D. in order to find the Tesseract because he was wrong.
Wait. Before you continue, there was one little nugget about that scene that I wondered about. Because S.H.I.E.L.D. had used this little girl to lure Banner. So now, since they set things up, just like in Captain Marvel, the little girl that's going to be like a spaceship girl one day, I wonder if this little girl, because the thing is that this little girl is already a S.H.I.E.L.D. operative at like 5 years old. So
you don't know if that was never verified.
Yeah, she could have
no, because they said it in the movie. Because even Banner said like, "Oh wait, so the little girl," and then she was just like, "Yeah, I was an operative at 4."
No.
They used the little girl
so that little girl is a spy.
Yeah.
And then Black Widow says, maybe, she says, maybe I was when I was her age or something, or when I was younger. She doesn't confirm that she was a spy. For all they know, she could have just been paid money because we see the people are destitute.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. I mean, just the way that everything works is very elaborate, though.
Yeah.
So it definitely fits into the story if they're going to make her like if like one day some little girl from India comes up as a superhero and somehow. The reason I ask is some of you guys read the comics, so like, oh wait, Willie's not here.
I do have one question. Was anybody else a little bit surprised? This is just shooting from the hip. One of the questions that I had after watching Thor was a certain thing, and it was answered through Avengers. And I said, "Hey, how are they going to make Hawkeye interesting?" And I have to give a shout out to Loki for getting a magical stick that attacks the brain to the heart in order to make Hawkeye interesting by turning his eyes green and becoming a ruthless person. I have to admit, it's most interesting he has been in any movie until Avengers Endgame for 5 minutes there. So I just wanted to go ahead and give that special recognition to Loki for making Hawkeye interesting for a second.
I think that was part of the problem. I think that's probably why that he wasn't so much embraced as an Avenger. It was because he wasn't introduced to us as an Avenger. He was introduced to us as a villain, like as part of the villainous crew. So I think that's what led to him ultimately not really being, kind of like a favorite Avenger or kind of like following through with the rest of the movies because we weren't introduced to him as an Avenger. We introduced him as Loki's like muscle man kind of thing throughout most of the movie. Like majority of the movie, he was under mind control. I feel like maybe they would have, if he was more on the hero side from the beginning, he probably would have had more of a role through the rest of the Avengers. But
I think what did it for me was his inexhaustible quiver, except when it needed to be for a plot device, and his magic arrows that could do anything, including destroy alien technology. I thought that was amazing. Because Iron Man can pierce it without losing all his energy, but he can shoot it, and it would it would lightsaber through and just melt the Chitauri armor. I thought that was amazing. I don't know how he did it because he just clicked the little button and then it just.
Thank you, Howard Stark, for your invention of his arrows, I guess.
Yeah, Howard Stark can do anything, Christy. Go ahead to school set piece right here. That Howard Stark was the original set piece and his stuff can build anything. Okay, so anytime you have a question about something that doesn't make sense, set piece, remember the name Howard Stark. Okay, because that's all you need. That's all you need. Apparently, he also created Marinade.
Howard Stark was portrayed more as a steampunk engineer, and I like that, as opposed to Tony Stark, who is portrayed as Deus Ex Machina, who can do no wrong. Do you see that, technologically speaking? I thought Howard Stark was much more believable as a steampunk sort of scientist than Tony Stark ever was. You see what I'm saying?
I like the
No, I'm not saying that I like it or not, but I'm just saying, like, it seemed like Howard Stark, even though the tech was from the 1930s and 40s, it was something that I could grasp, as opposed to whenever Tony Stark is talking about something, I'm like, how come you're the only one on the planet Earth until Black Panther that has this technology, and nobody knows what the hell you're talking about, right? Can I go back though to something, because we're starting to being introduced to the different Avengers, and they have Black Widow, her moment, the vignettes, and then Banner and his moment when then he's talking to Black Widow and everything like that. That scene with Black Widow, and that scene bothers me. Here's why.
Why?
This is the only woman in the Avengers, right? As part of the team, you have Maria Hill and other agents and everything like that. But as far as an Avenger, you have Natasha Romanoff. She's the only one, right? And not only that, she doesn't have superpowers, right? So she's supposed to literally stand for the woman as far as the audience, right? The female watchers, right? If you're going to say it like that, right? So that scene when she's supposedly being interrogated by Russian or Chechnyan rebels or whatever like that, because the guy's in a military uniform, and the scene opens up supposedly where she's being interrogated, beaten, right? Because we see the guy backhand her and everything like that. So number one, the guy backhands her, and her makeup was flawless. No, and I say that not to be petty, but I say that for a reason. What interrogation do you know could you get hit and the makeup's not even smudged? I forget the bruises. That's not even so. How long has she been there? And we know that she's supposed to
magic.
No. And I'll come back to why that's important in a second, because this movie has a lot of magic. Remember what I said before. When you watch a movie, you can suspend your disbelief to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not to the end all. It's not because every movie sets up its own rules, right? To Chris's point, these movies have been set up to this movie, right? Yeah. I want to go see this movie at midnight because I know who Thor is. I know who Tony is. I know at least a little bit who Hawkeye is. I know a little bit who Natasha Romanoff is, right? I know that Incredible Hulk is just because I saw that before, but now I heard that it's being wrapped up in the MCU, and I want to see what the Hulk does. Do you see what I'm saying? And Loki's in this, and I saw Loki. So we know what each of them can do to a certain respect based on the movies that we've seen, right? And the rules, and Steve Rogers as well, right? So she's being interrogated. We don't need any setup to know what an interrogation looks like by rebels, military rebels. And we know that she's been roughed up because we see one of her stockings is torn and she's bleeding. Now, the rest of the stockings are immaculate, not even dust on them. No, I'm just saying, I'm highlighting something. You'll understand later what I mean. But it's so ridiculous that they're trying to show her as tough, but I don't really think that she has a moment. She doesn't get a moment until much later when they're fighting in Midtown, and I'll highlight that, and I'll juxtapose the two scenes to show you what I mean, so you're not thinking that I'm just being petty. Instead of them actually showing her being beat up, and then we realize, oh, she's faking it. You know what I mean? She was in control the whole time, but she can take a hit, which would justify her being in that ground fight in Midtown, or not in Midtown, but in New York. Do you see what I'm saying? They don't establish that. And
I think you have to keep in mind that it was like an ensemble cast, so it's like you can't spend. No. And it was like a 2.5-hour movie, so you can't spend
we just established that each of the Avengers is getting their own vignette. This is her moment to shine. That's why the scene was in there.
I think that when it comes to her, what they did was shine her feminine side.
That's my point. They
always shining though. They continuously, even from Iron Man. That's all they
highlights her sensuality, but not her ability.
Well, no. See, now when it comes to her ability, because like what I mean by that is, all right, her ability to calm Thor down. I mean to calm Hulk down, which really wasn't effective because then Hulk was just chasing her. And she was just running away from Hulk. But then the reason why I give her credit for it is because is the scene with her and Loki where she had gotten the
That's a
information
good
from
scene.
Loki.
That's a
Like
good scene.
that part right there, like she was just, it was awesome because it just showed the power of manipulation that a woman can, you know what I'm saying?
No,
So
but
like
here's
she,
my
huh?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, she just has, and mind you, and she shows a little bit of this also in Iron Man 1. Because like in Iron Man 1, there's a scene where
Wait, what? Say that
where
again?
yeah, in Iron Man 1 when she's like finally revealed to
You mean
be,
Iron Man
oh
2.
no, that's part 2. Yeah, you're right. All right, yeah, in part 2. So in part 2 when she's finally revealed to be
I can see how you made that mistake though.
and then yeah, so like she's finally revealed to be like, this spy, and then Iron Man is all like, oh my god, what the hell is wrong with you, you're so versatile, do you even speak Latin? And then she walks out speaking Latin. Like she's basically one of those people that got incredibly informed and trained really really well so that she is versatile. Like I value her for her versatility because you never know what the hell's going to come out of her.
I'm not saying that her character has no ability. Understand what I'm saying, and again, I'll juxtapose it with other scenes in the film. What I'm saying, let's highlight that point where her ability, right, where it's highlighted, right, rather than her sensuality or her seductiveness or her sex appeal, because that scene that you
Her
have,
ability was highlighted because she kicked everybody's ass in that scene. Like in it,
I'll go back to the scene and explain what I'm talking about, though. Okay. And that scene that you're referring to in Iron Man 2, right? Again, it's her sensuality that she's an attractive woman that can do this. She's not, some average looking woman. Okay, let's. That's not how her character is displayed. That's my point. As a,
Also, so the problem with her is that she's too hot for her own good.
no. Understand what I mean? I'm just saying that's how that shot was played in the film. That's a fact. That's how it was played in the film. That's a fact. The scene when she's interrogating Loki to get the information to find out what he's really trying to do, her thinking ahead of time, knowing, hey, he's the god of because remember, she knows that these are people of myth and legend. So she knows the myths of Loki, right? That he's the god of mischief. She doesn't have to know the Loki right there. She just knows that he's known for being mischievous. So if all these people arguing, what does he really want? And she got into his head by allowing him to think that he was getting into her head, right? But even the shot, it highlights when you look at that shot, and we'll go to it, right? It's her, I don't know what the metric is on the thing, but her ass is just plastered all over the thing.
Yes.
No. Let's keep it real. You see what I'm saying? And my one is that was her moment, another one of her moments. Because remember, when you have people who can fly and do all of this other stuff, and you can't do that, you're a ground-based person. You need moments to shine too, especially to your point, Chrissy, in an ensemble piece.
Yeah, we don't have
and
that.
Every time that she gets a moment to shine, it's like they're cutting her legs out from underneath her, right? So I'm saying when you show her in the interrogation scene, I'm not saying on its face value that's a bad scene. I'm just picking up things watching it as a movie watcher. The same, Chris, when you did when you said when you're looking at the CGI and the other thing, I took notice of that. Why is it that she's supposed to have been beat up and everything like that, but the stop?
There are some plot holes, but I do feel like they improved upon her being like a actual like kick-ass like special agent.
I think she was done much better than in Iron Man 2
for a majority of the movie.
Yeah,
after that scene, I think that's to where Nick Fury was discussing with the secret council of agent of Shield, whether or not they could move forward with the Avengers initiative. And that's what we see him in the dark room, and he's speaking with these people on the screen who are the councils or the head of Shield.
Yeah,
and they express like very little faith in the Avengers initiative, but he said something along the lines of, "We're in a war, and war are won by soldiers," and that's when we are segued over to Captain America, which is of course the soldier. He's a soldier in a boxing area, and he's boxing with practicing with one of those
punching bags.
You know what they're called, guys?
Punching bags.
He's boxing with the punching bags, and he's like knocking him out. He has all these replacements, like you can see that he's peak human or like superhuman strength. That's when he's approached and was told that he was needed at that time, and that it was because of the Tesseract was uncovered. And he said something along the lines of, you should have left it underwater where you found it, which leads to Iron Man, who was underwater. He was like welding some pipe underwater. And then he flies back over to Stark Towers, the new and improved Stark Towers, where he meets up with Pepper, and they're about to have this romantic evening, and Agent Coulson comes in and says, like, look, we need you. This is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. He hands him some stuff that he can look at. And he sees the Hulk. If you look at the screens, the Hulk is there's all these like different action sequences during in the screen, and he pulls up this image of Tesseract. During that time, that's the scene where we first learn Agent Coulson's first name, which is Phil. He kind of gets a little a little tinkling of a backstory. We got his first name now, which I thought was cool.
Oh wait, did you notice how jealous Tony got when he found out that he goes by Phil now? And you notice how he said his name is Agent. Yeah, yeah. You notice how he said that to his girl? Yeah.
Pepper was like the jealous girlfriend almost through the whole second movie of Iron Man 2. I'm glad he got a little jealous.
Well, first movie too, it was just in the eyes. Just in the eyes. And taking out the trash. Again, taking out the trash. She did in the first movie. So, that relationship has been cemented from the beginning. Just saying.
Right.
Can we highlight these different vignettes though? Because we mentioned Black Widow, we mentioned Banner in India, or what we assume it's India. We saw who is it, Steve Rogers in the gym, and then we're seeing Tony Stark, right? Each of them I think is pretty good the way they did it, because it establishes who they are at heart, right?
Yep.
At heart, Bruce Banner just wants to help people. Right? At heart, Black Widow is a spy. You know what I mean? That's what she does. At heart, Tony Stark, he's creating, because that conduit that he's put together, that's a new reactor for sustainable energy, and that's the prototype, and that's what he's using to power Stark Tower. You know what I mean? He's an inventor. You know what I mean? His mind is always buzzing and everything like that. And at heart, Steve Rogers is just a guy from the 1940s, just a regular Joe. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound like it's being petty or nitpicky, but I think it would be pretty cool if we actually touched on it. Okay. I find it kind of really, really incredible that a guy who was born in, the 19 teens, something like that. And we know that he's so period because of the way he talks, though he doesn't curse, he's the consummate gentleman as far as we think of it. His gym, even the gym is period. Those punching bags are period. His outfit is period. If you notice that, everything is circa what he would know and what he's comfortable with, right? Let me highlight comfortable with, right? Yet and still, we never see any cultural, not abnormalities, but cultural shocks for him. Do you see?
I was waiting the whole movie. I was like, look, if he says colors are Negroes, I'm about to be really.
That would be true for what it was. It doesn't make him necessarily bad for him to say that, but in his time, they would have been Negroes or colored, right?
Yeah.
So I don't understand. And why would he not be shocked that a Negro to him is running this world agency?
But apparently, there was at least 30 minutes that was cut from the movie. It was over a 3-hour film that was cut of Captain America, kind of like re-entering modern world. So that might have been there, but it was cut from the final footage.
I think it would have been great to put that in there, because we see different nuggets of that throughout the movie, and I like different callbacks to that era and his mentality, because he woke up literally 70 years later. You know what I mean? So he should be a guy that's talking like the 1940s, and he shouldn't be using modern colloquialisms or slang. When they're in that conference room scene and Tony's making fun of him because he doesn't know what anybody's talking about, that's how he should be, because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Actually, you know what? I wonder how some people would take this, because Nick Fury said Loki's got a couple of my best men that he turned into his personal flying monkeys. And then he said, I understood that reference.
Yeah.
Thor didn't get it.
Yeah.
Thor hasn't seen The Wizard of Oz.
Around like
Thor wouldn't know what he's talking about. What is that? Why do you mean a flying monkey? Thor's not from this world. If Thor knew what the flying monkey reference and he's laughing, I'd be like, that doesn't make any sense. So I did like that. I did find it weird. This is a nitpick, I know, but this is me, and it's not political.
We appreciate it, Jay.
India, and he's helping these people, and this little girl is rushing to him. Please, Dr. Banner, whatever she says to him in her language, I need your help. Dr. Banner, as far as we understand, has no money. So he's in no better position than any of the other doctors there in that country.
Well, there is also a cultural thing. Like, honestly, it depends on if you are, he's an American in a third world country. And he is obviously very intelligent because he's, on the as far as intelligence, he's right up there with Tony Stark, maybe even a little bit above. It depends on, what the setting is. So maybe that's why they approached him, because there is this kind of cultural thing in other countries, especially third world countries, that American ways are maybe better ways, or American, something that's American is automatically, in some cases, a little bit a league above in a way. So maybe that could be the reason why she was a.
We can't really hear you, Mark. What did you say?
Oh no, I mean, no, she's absolutely right. And I will attest to that, because in the Dominican Republic, that is the culture. It's been ingrained for the past 100 years that the American way is the best way, even if they're coming and taking all of your land and kicking you out slowly. But
that's my point. And when I said I didn't want to get political,
and everybody's coming to get married for $15,000. So anyway, that's another show.
I wanted them to highlight that, because I said to myself, if they're gonna show it, this is clearly what they're referencing. Let's go there. The same way I said about Steve Rogers. Let's go there. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing about Steve Rogers, though. One
superhero movie. Nobody really wants to get political during the times, considering
I don't think it has to be political,
especially considering the year that it came out. It came out 1 year after 2011, after 9/11. I don't think anybody really wanted to delve that.
9/11 was 2001.
No, Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers came out 11 years after 9/11.
Oh, but well, now one thing that kind of annoys me about Steve Rogers is that, like, okay, you were frozen for 70 years, right? So your mindset could be the same. Like, how is it that you're all of a sudden this old man and everybody's calling you an old man? Yeah, you were asleep for 70 years, but how is it that you all of a sudden have this maturity? And the scene that I'm talking about is when everybody suits up, and then they walk into the ship, and then he's like, and then the security guy is saying, "You guys can't be in here," and he's like, "Son, don't." And I'm just like, what the fuck? Yo, you look like you're 28. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, are you serious? Like, what life experience gives you all this, like, maturity all of a sudden?
Right?
Just because you from the 1940s, like, you were frozen for 70 years. Like, come on now. You went to sleep when you were 20. Like, how are you acting like you're 80 years old all of a sudden?
Thank you. He wouldn't. Nor would he be talking to, number one, he wouldn't be talking to women as if they were equals. He just wouldn't.
Yeah, that's
talking about Captain America.
Yes, he just wouldn't.
I thought you were talking about Captain America. I wanted to quickly shine my opinion on why he has a hard time talking to women. It's not because of what you think. No, I'm just, we're gonna let's just call a spade a spade. He's afraid of certain qualities that women have. Right? He's afraid of certain qualities that women have. Therefore, he doesn't know how to react when it comes to 2012 in the world of empowering women. I completely understand. It's just like the good point you mentioned about him dealing with Black people. And he deals with it very well because he's a stand-up guy. He's a gentleman, and he respects all races. I respect Captain America, even if he's afraid of going after women, which has nothing to do with me. Hey, I have no problem with his relationship with Bucky. I have no problem with it. I have gay friends. I'm just saying. Look. All I want to do is I want to talk about, I agree with you with Black Widow. I agree with the fact that she was just there for eye candy and to make Captain America uncomfortable. I completely agree with you there. It was not a lot of dialogue there. Believe it or not, she had the third longest runtime in this movie.
Yeah,
she did. Because you had to have that eye candy set piece. She had to have that eye candy on the show. So I completely agree with you on that. Also, Chrissy, what else is next in this movie?
All right. So after that scene where we're introduced to Captain America, and he said pretty much, let's leave it. You should have left the Tesseract underwater where you found it.
Wait a minute. Isn't that funny? Pause. Isn't that funny? We are 40 minutes in.
Is there anything you can tell us about the Tesseract that we ought to know now?
You should have left it in the ocean.
This is the thing that really pissed me off.
We are 40 minutes into this movie, and into the show, and we're just getting to Captain America. Getting on to the show. I watch y'all this movie. I just want y'all to let y'all know that. Go ahead. All right.
Okay, this alcohol's hitting, so let me just place that in there. So I'm trying to remember where. I believe we're at the point in the movie where we this is the scene that really pissed me off in this movie because it was super, super dumb to me. Loki gets like this mind travel flash to this other space world where he gets introduced to like the other who looks like a 1990s Power Ranger villain. And he's pretty much telling him that, yo, look, we got what's it called? The Chitauri army. We waiting over here. That's what the other tells him. Like, you need to get us the Tesseract and everything else because we ready to take over Earth. And Loki's like, look, you don't got the Tesseract yet. You waiting on me to give it to you. I'm trying to get everything set over here prior to you coming in. But I don't like how the design of the other looked. It just looked very like costumey, very like kind of like I said, like a Power Rangers supervillain. After that scene, there was
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. I can't say that Black Widow only had one rip stocking, but you can say that you didn't like how the other looked. This is unfair. This is unfair.
That's kind of like a detail. This is like his actual costume, the actual character.
That's a detail.
Like a 1990s Power Ranger villain. That's the best way I could describe it. It was just. She's
absolutely right. It is a detail, but I see where you're coming from, James. You got to stop the double standard, Chrissy. Got to stop it. Like, come on, what's going on?
That's a small detail that could have been overlooked.
That's a small or large is still a detail. Size does matter. I heard that from many women when I get laughed at.
The stocking could have been overlooked. But the actual whole character of this other looks horrible. They could have done a better job. But
maybe they figure it's how you use it. I don't know. So keep going.
After that scene, then it goes to it's called Stuttgart, Germany, where Loki is in Hawkeye. Loki is in Germany. He's attempting to get into like this museum area where he can get an eye scan, and Hawkeye is somewhere remote trying to get access to something. And during that scene, I thought it was really interesting. Well, during that whole those whole few minutes when they displayed that Loki comes out and he tells the humans of Earth, like, look, this is your natural state. You need to kneel. This is your natural state. Don't you feel so much better being inferior or something along those lines? And that's when we get the scene of this one gentleman coming out against Loki. I think that's the scene.
Oh, there he is.
I feel it's really underappreciated. Like I thought that was a fantastic and intelligent scene because if you look at the age of the gentleman, he's probably somewhere along the lines of he probably was alive during the Third Reich under Nazi Germany.
He's a Holocaust survivor.
The fact that he said something along like, we won't have to kneel to men like you. And Loki says, there aren't any other men like me. And he said, there's always men like you. And I thought that was really like, I appreciated that scene. It really meant a lot.
I think, can we pause for a second? I think we're missing something because there's a sequence that ties into another movie. The reason why they're in Stuttgart, Germany is because they're trying to get the Iridium to control the power of the Tesseract, right? And leading up to that, the scene that we know that's when Dr. Selvig, he's talking to Barton.
Yeah, probably.
And he's telling him that, this is amazing. I'm learning so much. The Tesseract is showing me this. Like he's the power of it is he's learning all these things that his mind is expanding beyond what he thought was possible as far as physics, right? And then he turns and he tells Loki, he's like, this is the greatest thing ever. It's almost like Star Trek 5. You know what I mean? You know that scene I'm talking about, Chris, when he's like, share your pain with me, you know what I mean? Embrace it.
Yeah, but we don't mention Star Trek 5 when we're Trekkies.
Here we go. You know what I'm saying? But he's like, I'm seeing so much and I'm learning so much from the power of the Tesseract. Now, this is called back later when we find him. Remember in the psych ward, the hospital in Thor: Dark World. That's why, because of what happens to him and his prolonged
okay, Ricky,
prolonged mental control underneath the Mind Stone. So all of this is called back to in Thor: Dark World. I just wanted to highlight that point. And Barton says. And then Loki turns to Barton, and Barton says, and he says, "What did the Tesseract show to you?" And he says, "What we need to do, right?" And that's when they go to Stuttgart to steal the eye print, so they can steal the iridium. Okay, but my question is this: all Barton did was shoot 2 people with an arrow.
Yeah,
why did Loki need him? From jump. Why did he need him? This is my point that I was making earlier. This is his chance to shine, right? Why was he script writers?
And you know what? This is where you're faulting yourself a little bit, I think, because you're overlooking a major part of the scene that Chris you just described. And that's the guy that stood up, right? The guy that stood up, the Holocaust survivor. He probably got up and said, "Look, I've had a long life. I don't really need to live anymore." You know, saying, "Who wants to live here anyway? These guys stink." So he got up so Loki could just end his life, and he probably was upset when Captain America saved his life. I would be too if hey.
He got up to make a point, make a stance. It's like a nod to the I guess the resistance.
You think he was being heroic? I think he like Captain America, which is why they had him in the same scene. We're on Suicide Watch. Personally, that's just my opinion. I don't think he wanted to live. I think he said, "Hey, I had a good life. I survived Holocaust." Some people survive Holocaust and they're here kneeling before Zod, and other people they go around, bending magnets in metal. So what can you say? What can you say?
Now you're going to segue into X-Men?
He's no longer kneeling. That's what I took it as. He probably survived the Holocaust. He went through all that horror, and he said, "Look, I'm no longer kneeling to men like you. There's no place for men like you here." After that scene, there was where first
kind of like Black Panther, better to be buried.
Huh?
Kind of like the Black Panther, Killmonger when he was dying.
Oh yeah, that scene.
It's the same thing. Marvel likes going back. But okay, go ahead and describe the next scene so I can address James's issue with Hawkeye and why he was so important to Loki's plan.
Hold on, because you said Captain America came, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Captain America came, and then he was saved by Iron Man, and now we're going to discuss why Hawkeye was so important, because they captured the main villain of the movie in about 50 minutes, and then they have an epic fight between Iron Man and Thor, because, my dick is bigger than yours. So we're going to talk about all that and why Hawkeye was, such a relevant part of this movie. Go ahead.
Yes, again, they capture Loki. They have this whole scene where Thor comes in the plane, snatches Loki up, takes him over to some rock. They discuss about why would he do this. He still didn't really give a whole reason. Besides, we did kind of learn the fact that he's a little bit disillusioned with Odin and the whole thing going on with Asgard. That's when Iron Man kind of slips in there, like, "Look, you took our prisoner." There's a whole fight sequence that happens with Iron Man and Thor, and they fight it out, which was a cool scene. I think Thor could have easily taken it.
Were they about to hug in that clip? I don't understand. Like, let's not show that picture again. I thought, oh man, they look like they're about to embrace. That's so cute.
But I feel like
you're gonna tell me y'all have not seen a porno movie when they're fighting and then all of a sudden they, go behind the mountains, which would have gave Loki plenty of time to escape because he surely was hanging on the mountain for the longest time. But anyway, we're not gonna talk about that set piece, right?
Loki didn't want to escape. He didn't want to escape at that point. But Thor could have.
Maybe we're smart enough to figure that out.
And they gave Iron Man more props than what he should have got, because when Thor went to reach pull down the thunder and he directed it towards Iron Man at this time. I think he could have easily just short circuited his whole deal. Like, I don't understand how he ended up powering him over to 400%. When if he would have just kept going, I think it would have been done. And then they showed a scene where Thor grabbed Iron Man and he broke the metal that was, the metal that is what Iron Man's made of. So he's very powerful. I feel like they gave Iron Man more of a chance than what he really would have had Thor.
I don't know if my name is showing, but it says set piece right there at the bottom. Set piece. And basically, those are just sequences in movies for the big climactic battles that have nothing to do with anything, but it's that type of movie. So they have set pieces. Okay, can we go back a little bit? So they get Loki, right? We find out later, as you said, Chrissy, that he wanted to be captured. That was the whole point of it, because he's going to destroy the Avengers. We find out later, according to him, right? But he's on the scramjet and he's sitting there, and Tony Stark, for whatever reason, is being a flamboyant dom, and he's upset with Steve Rogers. Why? I don't know. Where did that come from, Tony? Why are you upset with this man that you've never met before?
Because he wants to be the alpha dog, bro. That's why. That's why he has a plan of action.
So this
plan to attack.
Wait, you didn't see the part where he was messing with Bannon? Because he was like, because Tony
Stark. This is the first time that Tony Stark is interacting with another one of the Avengers, right? And
right. So you're talking about something later,
like that.
When we talk about why Hawkeye was so important to the movie.
Yeah, he's calling him an old man. He's disrespectful to him. You know, why is all that necessary? And to Steve Rogers' credit and to the scriptwriter's credit, Captain America stayed focused. He was like, yo, I don't know what your problem is, basically, but, you know, we need to have a plan of action. That was too easy. Something doesn't sit right with me. It's never that easy. Why did he just give up? He's thinking ahead. Tony Stark is calling him an idiot, a moron. He continues this on the hover carrier. You know what I mean? But Steve Rogers, in all those scenes, he's absolutely right. Okay?
Yeah, I love Captain America.
Yeah, Thor comes there, you know, the lightning is blocking the scramjet, right? And Loki is looking up, right? And here we have the most intelligent man that we know of in the world, Tony Stark, who doesn't know, hey, if this is Loki, I've never heard of Loki before, right? I've never read that book, right? Who do I know in Norse mythology that conjures thunder and lightning? You know what I mean? I don't know, right? So they're all shocked that Thor would show up. But who knows? The Latin-speaking spy, Black Widow, she knows, hey, that's Thor, his brother, right? Thor comes there. For whatever reason, Thor just attacks people because they need him to, right? Why did he attack him? Why would he need to attack him? He's been to Earth before. He knows these people, right? He knows
because he's a god. He doesn't have to listen to us.
My point exactly. So
no. Iron Man attacked him.
Go ahead. You defend Chris Hemsworth, Chrissy. You do ahead. You do that.
Defend him. Iron Man attacked Thor first, and Thor ain't going out like no punk. He's like, look, you ain't about to take me out. I'm not a god.
Iron Man did not attack Thor first. Thor came on to the plane. Iron Man opened up the
Chrissy,
carrier.
I'm disappointed. That was the best you have. That was the best.
Iron Man opened.
He hopped on the ship. He was an unwanted passenger. I don't know if you saw Passenger 57. He was an unwanted passenger as he got us out of the airplane, right? And then he just took prisoners like he owned the ship. You know what I'm saying? Because he's upset at his brother.
Thor never heard anything about an Iron Man. He'd probably just be like,
he
okay,
hit him in the chest. He hit him in the chest.
Going to his brother. He probably did. He doesn't know anything
hit
about
Iron Man in the chest when he got on the scramjet. Thor hits Tony Stark in the chest when he gets on the scramjet. That is how he and then he snatches Loki. That is what he does. Why does he do that?
Also, that's why he says, "Don't take my stuff."
That these
that's why he said, "Don't touch my stuff."
Okay.
He doesn't understand how these humans are capable of having Loki. He understands that Loki is a god. These humans.
Loki is not a god. That was the whole point of Thor 1. Thor 1 that we are not
taking Loki from them at that point.
No.
So once he takes them from them,
Loki even says to Thor, these humans think that we are gods, but we know that we aren't. Loki himself says that. And
yeah, but he also knows that he's way more powerful than a human. So he sees Loki, who is way more powerful his knowledge than these humans in this airplane. So he probably
Thor 1, he already learned that lesson. Power doesn't
be able to deal with
power doesn't give him the right to do whatever he wants to do. Thor 1, he already learned that lesson. In the opening sequence, when we first meet Thor, he's undoing everything that he learned in the first Thor movie. It makes no sense. Why is he undoing everything that he learned in the first Thor movie? Because the next time we see him, on the helicarrier, everything that Thor is saying when he's talking to Agent Coulson, right, and when he's talking to Nick Fury, is repeating what he learned in the first Thor movie.
Because they realized that the first Thor movie sucked, and they needed to change it completely. Yes, they realized it was terrible. Loki was a completely
back and forth.
different character than he was in the first movie. He was actually interesting in this movie. Thor all of a sudden had a little bit of swag and attitude, not just a drunk, even though he talked like a drunk in this movie. Because there was a line in the movie that Thor said that I thought he was drunk. I thought he had a little bit of the bubbly, because all I heard him say was he's smug and tidy. You know, and I'm like, okay, you're drunk, right? He was drunk. He was drunk. Somebody told me he was drunk.
That he doesn't have the right, just because he has the ability or the power to do something doesn't give him the right to do it. That is the whole point of the Thor movie, right? The Thor movie,
right? But Thor sucks.
This one. So why does he do that?
They're not following. Different directors, bro.
They need them to follow.
Well,
The only
different directors. Hold on. Look. I can prove. Incredible Hulk did the same thing, because I swore Bruce Banner looked like a different person from the Incredible Hulk to the Avengers. All right, so Bruce Banner was different, so everything he learned was completely different, right? And then Thor, everything he learned, and then Captain America, he became nicer to women. So I mean, it's like there's a lot about from the old movies to Avengers that did not work. I completely get what you're saying, Set Piece. I do, but you have to take some things with a grain of salt, like take things with a grain of salt, like Black Widow did with her script. See the superhero. What else do we have going on?
No.
After Loki,
wait a minute. You just mentioned when they were fighting. Then when they were fighting, and Thor summons lightning and he electrifies Tony's suit. So you're telling me that Tony can just plug himself up into an outlet and he gets incredibly powerful? That's how his suit works on electricity?
I don't understand that scene. That scene was a little off.
The only reason they did that is because he needed to last in the fight longer. Why? Because they had to boost everybody's power, because you have this person, this alien, the superpowered alien coming down there. He can't just dominate, or the Hulk can't just dominate. And you have ground-based people like Black Widow and Hulk, and they can be overshadowed by superpowered. This is why
Hawkeye was in this movie. I completely forgot Hawkeye was in this movie. Why? Because we haven't gotten to the scene yet. See the superior. See the superior. Let's rant some more when we get to the aircraft scene. So go ahead. See superior.
Okay, this week we flash forward to the aircraft, and that's when we learned that the ship was actually like a flying aircraft, and they take Loki, they put him into this prison, like the glass drop cage that there was a scene where Fury explains to him that, look, this is where you are, and we can destroy you, blah 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 blah. After that scene, we are transported to the Iron Man, Hulk, and Cap, where they're kind of like in the lab area discussing the Tesseract, and it was Hulk or Bruce Banner that put it and planted to see that, look, what are they doing with the Tesseract in the first place? What is S.H.I.E.L.D. doing with Tesseract? And that's when he kind of planted the seed in Iron Man's head and Captain America's head, like, look, what's really going on? And that's when shortly after that, we are transported to the scene where Black Widow is interrogating Loki, and they make all these kind of droplets of
Charmaine. Charmaine, no, it was one of our fans. She's watching us. I was wondering.
So Black Widow is pretty much trying to get information from Loki. But during this time, this is what confused me. They always make this kind of like, they drop little nuggets of her being Russian, but she has no Russian accent. She doesn't. I understand she's an Asian, and like she has to have different accents depending on the occasion. But if she's just
look at James foaming at the mouth. Look at James foaming at the mouth. Go ahead, James.
That's my point.
I mean, she certainly looks Russian.
No, she doesn't.
Yes, she does. She got Russian features.
She got the red hairs.
In her face, like she looks like some Russian people. Like that.
I thought she looked cross-eyed.
They make all these plans about her being Dreykov's daughter, about something going on in Sao Paulo, about something going on, like a hospital fire, and I don't know. It just seems like they make all these droplets, but they never follow through with these droplets later on in the movie. But after that scene, that's when Cap discovers that S.H.I.E.L.D. is up to no good, because he went on kind of searching to see what's going on, and he found out that they are him and Iron Man found out that they are using the Tesseract to create some kind of nuclear weapon or some kind of weapon of mass destruction.
They're making weapons that run on the power of the Tesseract. That's hand weapons, like power, that the plasma weapons, basically.
They made mention of the Tesseract being pure power. So that's when they confront Nick Fury on it, and he said, "Look, the whole reason why we had to come up with this plan is because of Thor. He found you, and it was Thor and his people. Because last year, that's when Thor came out, and they made all this. Aliens came down, and they found out that they were woefully unprepared for any kind of mass invasion. So then after that, that's when we see like the whole argument comes through. We see the scene where Iron Man and Captain America are really starting to bump heads. Iron Man's Captain America said this one is like, look, put on the suit because I'm ready to kick your ass right now. And Iron Man is like, look, it doesn't matter if I don't need the suit. If I have the suit or not, I'm still a billionaire. I'm still a genius. I'm still a playboy. During that time, we discovered that Hulk, he found out that the room that was Loki is originally his room, just in case he hulks out and they have to get rid of him. He's like, look, where am I supposed to go? You already rented out my room. You're already scared of me. Like, what's going on? And during this scene once all this chaos of the scene, that's when we discovered that the staff of Loki, which was also in the room, started to glow, and for whatever reason, it took down the invisibility kind of shield of the ship, of the aircraft, whatever it is that they're flying on, which made it visible for Hawkeye and his crew to come in and see and infiltrate or attack the ship because now it's visible. That was a cool scene. And once Hawkeye sees that it's visible, he shoots one of his magical arrows or his Stark technology arrows and takes out one of the engines of the ship. At which point, it was a big explosion. Everyone who was in that room kind of got scattered around, and unfortunately, Black Widow got trapped with Bruce Banner, who was in the process of turning into the Hulk. When we get the scene, that was really cool. With after he turned into the Hulk at this time, and she's trying to calm him down. She couldn't calm him down. And he turns into the Hulk and he goes after her. And this scene was awesome. Like, I thought it was beautifully shot and a very, very interesting part in the movie. That was one of my favorite scenes.
Can I pause right now since we?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go back but jump ahead because we're talking about something similar in these different sequences. What is the this is a genuine question I really want to know, because I know it's obviously different from the comics, and I don't want to go in the comics because we're talking about the movies. You see what I'm saying? So I'm kind of like nixing the comics out. But in the films, the thing that I really dislike about Marvel films, their powers are based on convenience and not on a hard set rule. And that's very hard to be engaged with because you don't know what the stakes are, because if they need to, well, poof, they can do it. Do you see what I'm saying? As opposed to, well, I know they can't fly, so if they fall from this building, you see what I'm saying? Those are real stakes, right? So my point for that is this: in the first Captain America, Bucky is blasted out of the train, right? And I'm bringing this up for a reason, for something that ties into this movie. He's because of the concussive force of those Hydra weapons that are running on the Tesseract, right? Basically, S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing the same thing, right? That they did, but it's just more modernized, right? Okay, so he's blasted out because of the concussive force, because he doesn't have enough strength to hold it. Well, in comics, we know, as I said, I'm not going to mention that, but we know that Steve Rogers is just a peak level human. He doesn't have superhuman strength. He's just a peak level human being, like an athlete, right? In the Marvel movies, he's lifting up a Harley Davidson with 3 girls on top of it. You know what I mean? I don't know what his power level is, but it's strong enough that he can take that blast from the Tesseract, right?
Yep.
And this one, then he took a blast from the scepter, which we have established has the Mind Stone in it, right? That same Mind Stone is what gave Vision sentience, right? So the same blast that paralyzed Rhodey, right? Steve Rogers with his adamantium, his vibranium shield, he can take the force of that hit that concussive blast, and he's strong enough to take that blast from the scepter. We saw that with Loki, right?
Yeah.
When Thor drops down in anger, right? He's not projecting energy at it or bullets at it. He's just hammering it with his strength, right? Against the vibranium. We know that there's concussive force because it spreads out. It's not like it just died when it hit the hammer and there was no concussive blast because the whole forest is decimated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Steve Rogers is not in the ground. He's standing up like, I'm ready to go. So clearly his strength, it's not a petty reason. It's in the film wise, it's a reason. You have to have set rules because then when you show somebody in danger or at stakes, like we're supposed to believe the stakes are so high, if you don't know what their power levels are, well, then they could do anything. Why am I engaged in this, right? Here's why I bring that up. He was standing up, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
The helicarrier carrier, you said Barton, he shoots the arrow and it explodes one of the propellers and the shrapnel gets in it, right? And so they're falling, right? That's the worst case scenario for them. They're falling from 30,000 feet. Nick Fury said they're up in the air, right? When he's talking about that, right? So they're falling at that height. When Barton opens up the helicarrier 30,000 feet in the air, he's not holding on to anything. How is he not sucked out of the helicarrier?
Because he's Captain America.
No, I said Barton.
Wow.
Hawkeye.
Yes,
No. I'm not talking about Captain America. I said Hawkeye. How is Hawkeye not sucked out of that that scramjet? When they open up and he shoots the arrow and it explodes, he should have been sucked out of there, right? The same.
It's very simple.
Huh?
He has a thing of arrows, right?
Yeah.
A satchel right back there, right? Little backpack. There is some anti-gravity device. I said, well, look, I'm trying to get. You're still going for reasoning and logic that's not going to be there in this movie for that scene.
But I really want to get to the minutia because I enjoy film, right? So honestly, I'm putting it down. That to me, I'm like, how much suspension of disbelief am I supposed to have that they're 30,000 feet up in the air and you can't open up a plane door without the mass coming down and the whole atmosphere being pushed out and you needing oxygen. He's up there, he's able to aim it. He's not like, I got to do this 1, 2, 3 because I can't breathe. No, there's no problem. The same thing for Captain America again. So he can hold his breath when he's jumping to pull the lever and he's fighting those guys and he's swinging. You know the amount of air that would be sucked out of there? They didn't say that they had shields on there and that the atmosphere so that there was no pressure or anything like that. No, he's jumping into open air. How is he not sucked out of there and falls to the ground? Again, that makes no sense. Let's just keep it real. To the point that we said visually, it's stunning. Yeah, it's a visually stunning sequence when Black Widow is down there and the Hulk is chasing her and you see the Hulk and he's like, rampaging. And visually, it's stimulating, right? He backhands her into some kind of steel or titanium or whatever that ship is made out of, right? He backhands her enraged, and she gets up. She's not even knocked unconscious. What is her power level? These are not.
It's called. I have 2 words for you, set piece.
That's Black Widow. This is my thing to whoever wrote that script. What is going on? How are we playing?
I'm about to tell you. I have 2 words for you, set piece. It's called safe word. You want to talk about foreshadowing? The Hulk and Black Widow had a lot of attraction with each other throughout the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? So all they were doing was practicing for when she gets the Jolly Green Giant later. That's all they were doing. You know, he has a swarm of her own. So you got to think about that before you wonder about why, she's able to do it. He didn't want to hurt her. They're just playing. They're playing around. Okay, they're playing around. I see it here in Orlando all the time. People like hitting their spouses. Look, I completely agree with you. There were a lot of stuff that did not make sense, but it's a superhero movie. Not everything's going to make sense. Hawkeye should have been sucked out. I would have liked Hawkeye to be sucked out so I didn't have to watch him for 3 or 4 more movies. But unfortunately, he was still there, right? He was still there. So it was a great scene all around. Great times. Hawkeye was more interesting during that time because he was needed to initiate all this from happening, even though if you take him out, all this still could have happened with a putty. So it did happen. But I'm a big movie quote guy. You like to go to every minutia. I'm a big movie quote guy. And for the first time in Marvel Cinematic Universe, I got one of my movie quotes, and it came out from these scenes. Are you ready? Here we go.
Go ahead.
Does an ant have quarrel with a boot?
Oh,
Do you know how many customers I have used this line on? Okay, whether it be from Home Depot all the way up to Motel 6, I have used this line on so many customers. Oh, Mr. Chris, I have no problem. Does an ant have quarrel with a boot? Meaning, I'm going to squash your drug addict ass. So I wanted to take a shout out to Marvel for giving me that quote and giving me that line. And, Loki doing it great. What do you say, Chrissy?
But no, that was one of my favorite lines earlier in the movie. But back to mine, earlier in the scene, I forgot to mention there was one when Iron Man and Captain America were really going at it. Iron Man mentioned something about how you're not prepared to make the sacrifice play to lay down on the wire if it came down to that. And Iron Man said something like, I think I'll just cut the wire. And that could have been, and most likely it was kind of foreshadowing the end of the movie where he takes the whistle and does it like that. But I was wondering if they could possibly go back and use that to say that he maybe possibly survived the Infinity Gauntlet because he found a way to kind of cut the wire, so to speak, and survive that. I think it would be interesting.
There are no rules.
To happen.
There are no rules, so anything can happen. Like you said, it's a superhero movie, right? Are we supposed to? Here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. And I'm not bringing it up just because I want to go on a tangent on that. But here's why I say that. There's a sequence in BVS when you have Wonder Woman and Superman fighting Doomsday, right? And everybody made a big hoopla over the fact that there's a shot where you see Batman in the background, right? And we, the audience, behind Batman, and we're observing this as Batman is observing this, and he realizes, hey, I'm literally just a man. This is well beyond me. I can't do anything, right? And Batman is just observing these titans, these gods, if you will, fight, right? And everybody said, haha, look at Batman. What is he doing? He's doing nothing in a fight, right? I thought that was very realistic because what the hell would he do? Do you see what I'm saying? In the real world, what would he do? What is a human being going to do, right? In the same context, we're looking at this movie and we care about these characters, right? Because we've been watching through the different films. We care about the stakes. Why do I care that the helicarrier is falling if not having known these people in the other film? That's my point. You can't set up something and then it not matter. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm on it, because I want it to be great. Do you see what I'm saying? And this movie has a lot of different things that work for it. We're talking about quotes, right? And I think that's something that people look over. Maybe they don't know what it means or something, but it's a pattern with this director, okay? And this is not something that I'm just making up or calling out, but he's known for this. He admitted it himself.
Josh
Whedon, right? Talking to Black Widow, and again, in another one of her scenes that she gets to shine, right, and be the show how intelligent she is, right? She's not just some sex pot. She's not just some look good woman, right? She's intelligent, right? This is why she deserves and why she's one of the top field agents, right? And she outsmarts the god of mischief, right? Which he didn't know. Number one, he said, very few people can sneak up on me. I commend you. That's what he said, right? Yep. So we see that she can do that, right? She's stealthy. Then when she allows them to get it, and we think that we're learning all this backstory and everything like that, and it alludes to it so that if they want to go to another movie, that's great writing. We don't need to know that now, but that's great writing because, remember they call back to the Avengers, right? So we're learning her backstory, right? We know that she met Barton, and Barton is the one that brought her into S.H.I.E.L.D., that got out of Russia. That's great writing, right? So then we see that, and then in an instant, she flips it. And you see her acting, and Scarlett Johansson did a great scene. It's all in her eyes, right? Her eyes start to well up when he mentions the church burning or the school burning or something like that. I forget where. And you see the pain. She's allowing her character, Black Widow, is allowing herself to feel just enough to show that to him. So he thinks he has her, right? And then she mentions something because she thinks he's really after something else, right? And he says, no, the monster's already here, right? And he says, oh, and she's already walking away because her back is turned. She said, oh, you're after the Hulk, right? And then you see the smile leave Loki's face immediately, right? But before that, the line that I'm talking about is this. He calls her a mewling quim, right? Number one, that's an old Earth term. a mewling quim, right? And that means a whimpering vagina.
Oh, I had no idea.
Wow.
It's a 19th century term. It's a 19th century term. Okay.
Yo, I didn't know that. I had no idea what that meant. That's crazy.
Yeah. Now, to your point, it's a political. We can't put politics in a movie. In a superhero movie, they have cursing throughout this movie, and you just call somebody a whimpering pussy in a kids movie. That's a fact. That's a fact.
This movie was actually almost rated R.
So when it mattered for the plot and the story, they don't do it. But when it's just to sexualize somebody who you just showed highlighted as good, and why is Loki talking to women like that all of a sudden?
Because he has a superiority complex. Because
No. My point is this: he doesn't have a history. There's no history of him not thinking that women are intelligent. You see what I'm saying? He said you're a whimpering. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you're right, Ricky.
So he said it to demean her, but there's no history of that. Where did that come from? Why is he? It's not like she tricked him and then he realized it and said, "Oh yeah, you whimpering Quinn." Do you see what I'm saying? He
they
said,
already established he finds humans inferior for the earlier scene in Germany.
In general, when you see an ant to Chris,
it's not good looking for the movie, Ricky. That's why.
Male or female, you don't know that. He said whimpering Quim. He said that to her specifically. That's Joss Whedon shining through. This is something that we see again later on in Age of Ultron. This is a
Home Depot is a big box retail, and right now I do a few things, but that's
you see that's that earlier, because when it serves the story to make it coherent and make sense, they don't do it. They don't have time. We don't want to go into that. But you curse throughout this movie. You sexualize the women in this movie, even though they're little girls looking up to these characters. Notice that there are other women on the helicarrier who are wearing skirts and loose-fitting clothes, but you got Black Cat and Catwoman strutting throughout this movie. Why are they dressed like that? No, seriously. Seriously, why are they dressed like that?
I have no idea.
Why
they're dressed like that? Because it makes them stand out for whatever reason they have to stand out. Let's talk about that fight scene between Hulk and Thor. Let's talk about the fact that since The Incredible Hulk, this was the only movie that Hulk felt like the Hulk, like he was a dominant force. Yeah. And one of the reasons is because of his dominatrix play that he had with with Black Widow, where he brought up his Charlie Murphy or Ike Turner and took care of business there. And then he gave the business to Thor, even though Thor kind of won. It's debatable.
He did the business to Thor. He did not give the business. Thor gave the business.
Thor was not fighting.
Thor was holding back. Because in one scene he was trying to like, look, Banner, you're better than this. We're your friends, your people.
Thor was not fighting him.
Yeah, Thor was not fighting at 100% or 9,000% capacity. He was out there trying to just to like get Bruce Banner back to his senses, not necessarily to fight and be Hulk. But once Hulk
that's debatable. But let me.
Once Hulk gave him that hard uppercut, he was like, "Look, I'm not playing games." He held out his hand from Mjolnir. He was like, "Look, I'm about to mess you up," and that's when he hit him with the 1-2 of the hammer, and Hulk, across the room.
Shout out to Marvel versus Capcom. Let me ask a question to the panel, and Vic, I want to start off with you. Vic, my question for you is, who was the biggest dick in this movie?
Iron Man.
Who did you say?
I said Vic was going to start off, but Chrissy started off. Okay, she said Iron Man. Who's the biggest dick in this movie, Vic?
Yeah, start. Iron Man.
Iron Man. James, I'm sorry, set piece. Who is the biggest dick in this movie?
Don't disrespect me. It's going to be Tony Stark, followed by Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to know your opinion on why Samuel Jackson in a second. So, see the superior. You said that Iron Man, was the superior dick in this movie. Why do you think that?
Because he's the biggest dick in all the movies. He's an asshole.
Well, some people like that. Okay. And honestly, most women like that. But Mark. Okay, Vic. Why was Tony Stark the biggest dick, Vic?
Okay. So Captain America says, "Is everything funny to you?" And Tony Stark says, "Funny things are." So the other reason why is he kept poking the bear.
Yeah.
He kept poking the bear. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He's like, and it was just. I mean, I appreciate it because as a guy who also likes to tinker, I understand the fact that if you don't understand something, you want to like open it up and figure it out and see what's up on the scientific level. So he was kind of looking at Bruce Banner more of
No, Ricky.
like one of his Tinker projects, like like something, So he wanted to. He was asking all of these questions, and plus he knows that Banner is also another science guy. So he's like, So what's your secret? Huge bag of weed, metal jazz, yoga. Like he's just being all up in his face about it when the guy he just really was trying to get him to hulk up, like right there. So yeah, he was being a huge dick, but it's Tony Stark, so that's what we love about it.
So James, why do you feel that Iron Man was the biggest dick set piece?
Here's why. Everybody in the team, the Avengers, had a specific role, right? And Iron Man, instead of doing his job as a smart guy, the one to figure it out and everything like that, he thinks it's all a joke. To Vic's point, you're on a helicarrier, right? There are maybe 1,000 people on that ship, right? If this guy, if he does get angry when you cattle prod him, right, or when you're chiding him and everything like that, and he does do that, you're telling me Iron Man is gonna say his arrogance at thinking that he could outthink every solution when we haven't even seen him do it in this movie.
Yep.
So I don't understand where his arrogance is merited. It never comes through. The reason why I said Nick Fury is because, number one, he's the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and he can't run, but also because but also,
You're stupid. I'm just thinking about Nick Fury.
Also because he's clearly keeping things from people who actually put their lives on the line.
Oh yeah, that's true. When they needed a push, yeah.
So, well, not only that, but I'm like, here's the thing. Yeah, don't act like if you know that somebody's going to be, it's the same principle with hey, my best friend / lover killed your parents. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to tell you. And if you find out, I'll fight you over it. That's a dick thing to do, Steve Rogers, right? We're using the same weapons we're using basically newer versions of the weapons that you fought to stop, and your friends died. Remember, those are his friends. His unit, those are his friends. Okay, they died to stop Hydra from doing that, right? We're doing the same thing, but also I need you to work for us, and we've been doing this for quite a while. You know what I mean? You would think, and also if you die, you die, right? They never signed up to be the Avengers or to work for S.H.I.E.L.D. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he always has an opinion about everybody, but he's not on the up and up. Then his one of his close friends, I would presume, based on Captain Marvel, also his / partner, is killed, basically being the only hero in the movie, the first hero in the movie. You know what I mean? Self-sacrificing, right? He dies. He rubs his vintage cards in his own blood and then throws them at these two people. This regular person, he loved you. He loved you so much. This is his cards and his blood. You know what I mean? Remember that. And then he just let them go. Like, just go. And then he says,
now, speaking about the cards,
later, he said,
hey, like, here's the thing. Like,
I never told you about the fact they're going to send a missile your way. I need one of you to take it. I need you to take this L from me. One, can you do it? I can't do anything. I can go on visit. I can't run. I can't do anything. He runs slowly up to the thing, and he uses the bazooka at the last minute, but he doesn't see that there's another jet of these little soldiers who's
well, he only has
and then he smiles, falls way more than 30,000 feet to his death. He's smiling like he did it. And then he smugly, in his Shaft outfit, see, I told you they would do it, and I let him go. I let the weapon go. I let the criminal go. I let all of them go. This gamma radio. Maria Hill. Yeah, that's why he's an asshole too.
Yeah.
You know what? The way you just describe all that, Nick Fury actually sounds like a bigger dick than Iron Man. But that's fine. Vic, what were you about to ask before I tell you my opinion of who was the biggest asshole in this movie?
Well, no. One thing that I didn't understand about that whole situation with Nick was that, okay, they said that, the guy that got shot, I keep forgetting his name. They had set that up.
Agent Coulson?
Yes, Agent Coulson. Like they obviously set that up so that then they could set up Agents of Shield. Because on the first episode,
not yet. Let it go.
No. I actually started watching it. So
Nah,
but the thing is, wait, are we not there? Are you trying to stop me because we're not there yet? Is that what you're doing? Okay.
No, we're yeah, and I really want to tell you why I think the three of y'all made some great points over Iron Man. James just killed it with me with Nick Fury. I didn't even look at it that way, so good job, to explain why Shaft gave people the Shaft. But in my opinion, the biggest villain in this movie, the biggest asshole in this movie was Thor. And here's my reasonings why.
How?
Yeah, Thor. Yeah, I have to say Thor. Besides the fact that he came across Air Force 4 like he was passenger 57, this was the only person that really got into a fight with almost every single Avenger. He got into a fight with Hulk. He got in a fight with Iron Man. To the point where Iron Man, he got all in Iron Man's face. I'm like, also Captain America did too. But I was like, hey, are you going to hug him or kiss him? And one time we actually saw they looked like they were both going to embrace. And Hulk, so Captain America and Iron Man. So that's why I think it's Thor. He came across as a dick. He came across as he was drunk. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. He was like, you two are tiny, petty, or something like that. So petty. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about? He just looks so drunk. He looks so drunk, like he already knew he was about to film Men in Black 4. So you have to understand and think about why. You have to understand and think about why at the end of the day that Thor is the biggest dick in this movie, but he's closely followed by Nick Fury. Iron Man wasn't a dick. He was making some valid points. He was correct in almost everything that he said. He wasn't wrong in anything. Okay, Hulk was definitely hiding some stuff about his inner turmoil and stuff like that. And we thought one thing at the end, Incredible Hulk, and in this movie it was completely different until the end, where he just says, "Oh, I'm always angry." I'm like, really, bro? I couldn't tell when you were making jokes and love notes to Tony Stark. So you just have to think about all these things. Plus, he also saved Captain America as well as the dude that was trying to kill himself earlier in the film. So give all the respect to Iron Man in this movie. Hulk is a close dick too because he almost Hulk was actually the hero of this movie because he saved that guy that jetted out of the jet, from falling to his doom.
I still think Iron Man is the biggest dick.
He saved Iron Man from freaking falling.
I think
exactly. Hulk was the hero of this film.
Hulk had a great hero. He saved Tony Stark. He broke his back. Then he smashed him against the building and killed those people in the building. And then he landed on a car roughly. And then
how do you know he killed people in the building? He just broke
the dick, according to Chris, he's timing it so that he can catch him and slowly descend. Because remember, he's falling literally from the upper atmosphere. But Hulk says, "No, I got it. I'll catch him, snap his spine, and then smash him into the building, and then leap backwards, and then body slam him into this car."
Shout out to Man of Steel.
And here's how I know that his back is broken. Here's how I know his back is broken. Because when Rhodey fell, he was paralyzed. And he wasn't even that high, but you can clearly fall from space if you're Robert Downey Jr. You can fall from space.
Well, you technically can't fall from space, but go ahead.
From the upper atmosphere, yeah, he did. He fell from.
That's not true. But
that's another point. They were in space, but instead of him just because the rockets were on him, instead of him when the rockets left him, instead of him still flying towards the mothership, he suddenly began to fall backwards in space. And I said, is this Marvel physics? Is that how that works? I didn't know that. I didn't know that in space there is friction and that you can just fall back in the gravity of space and fall back to Earth. Because
we're totally bypassing now the entire final act. So, Chrissy, we can get into the next scene after we just discussed why the 3 hour wrong.
Let Hulk have his
Let's talk about Bruce Banner falling because this movie has one. If this movie has one thing that they're going by is that the hero has to fall. So Hulk fell and landed naked.
Thor fell. Thor was ejected by Loki after Agent Coulson was murdered by Loki. He was ejected. He said something along the lines of, they think that we're gods or something. Oh, these humans think we're immortal. Shall we test that? And that's when he ejected Thor in the Hulk cage that was like the glass perimeter. So Thor's falling down. Hulk is gone. He fell down. We don't know where he's at. And that's when later on in the movie, we see that Hulk was stumbled upon by a security guard when he's back into Bruce Banner and later on in the film. And apparently that the security guard was played by Harry Dean Stanton. And there was supposed to be more scenes with him and the Hulk, but those were cut later on in
I saw those scenes, actually. I saw those scenes. I can describe them if you want. He watched the Hulk naked, lie there naked. And then he stepped up beside him and he waited for him to go down to normal size, as he says in the movie. They put that part in there. And then somewhere he got those clothes. We don't know where, but that was why it was cut, because it was deemed too risque. That's why it wasn't rated R that Chris alluded to earlier.
And also during that time, we see that Black Widow comes across Hawkeye, who we learned earlier that infiltrated the ship that everyone else is on. There was a fight scene between the two of them, and she ended up knocking him out unconscious. And then later on, we see that she has him restrained. And this is another issue that I have with the film, is that when he starts to come to after he's kind of knocked back into his senses by Black Widow, he mentioned something along the lines like, "Oh, have you ever been undone?" And of course, she brings the trinkets of, "Yeah, of course, you know I did," and all these trinkets that are never followed up with. Then we see she.
Pause. That's the only issue with that scene.
No.
I want to find out,
because I have a problem with the fact that Hawkeye woke up by being hit in the head after he was stabbed in the heart
From a
or the
mind.
brain. So I also have a problem with the fact that he was hit in the head with a steel pipe so he can get his memory back or whatever the hell it is. And then Black Widow hits him in the face with her fist, and her fist must be stronger than the Hulk's because he was knocked out from that for a good 2 hours. So I just want to make sure that I add that part in there.
He never got his memory back. He said for sure. She asked him, "Oh, do you know anything about Loki?" He said, "I have no idea." He didn't even know how many people he killed. So we already established that he has zero memory of the time that when he was under. But later on in the film,
he remembers when he was under Loki. He says he doesn't know where Loki went because he didn't ask Loki. He didn't say he didn't remember anything under Loki's spell. He said he doesn't know where Loki went because he didn't care to ask him at the time.
Also didn't
I want to know where Hawkeye's charisma went.
For any deaths.
I want to know where she got compromised.
Killed, or if he even killed any agents. He said he didn't even remember that. She said, "Don't even go down that road," or something along those lines. So
That's right. You are completely right, because he tried to forget, just like I try to forget he's in this movie. You're right, Chrissy.
No, but wait a minute. Now, let me ask you guys
something. The Avengers rally following Colton's death. That's when Agent or Nick Fury throws out the cards that you mentioned earlier and say, "Look, this is he died, blah blah blah."
I would never be able to look at that scene the same again. Thank you so much, Jay.
He rubbed this man's Avengers cards in his own blood.
I'm mad that you can tell coronavirus wasn't existing in 2012 because he's just holding it with the guy's blood. That's like, fine. Vic, you wanted to ask the three of us a question. Go ahead.
Okay, so you see that scene that we were just talking about, right? Where Black Widow and Hawkeye are talking after they fight.
Yeah.
It was so romantic.
She says to him that she was compromised.
Mm-hmm.
That was confusing to me because what is she compromised? Where is she compromised? Like,
they never follow up. They never follow up with her stuff. Never. That's my problem.
It's an allusion to something that happened in their past. We're not supposed to know because it isn't integral to the Avengers.
No, but they make it seem like if Loki compromised her.
Why are you laughing?
Because he's all like
illusion. That's what it's called. It's an illusion.
You know what you need? You need Thanos to snap a few times so you can forget. 5 years.
They're always the story with her, but they never follow up on it. That's another example.
She was compromised because she was tricked into not doing Total Recall so she could do this movie. So yeah, Scarlett Johansson was actually supposed to play in Total Recall, and then she dropped out so she could play in Avengers. That's how she was compromised because she was like, "What the fuck is this shit?" Chrissy, what was the
Here's the real question. When they were fighting, these two trained people, why did it look like the weakest fight I've ever seen in a movie? That's the question.
Because they're the two weakest ones. I guess they're the two weakest Avengers.
Street Fighter, Guile versus M. Bison. Guile versus M. Bison and Street Fighter. Actually, no. You want to see the weakest fight scene? Watch Street Fighter Legend and Chun-Li.
High level wins. Okay. So these are some of the most powerful Avengers. Okay. Because we know that they're powerful, because then when we see Quicksilver, the fastest Avenger, gets shot with a bullet. But these two, no, they never get hit with a bullet. The only injury they ever take is getting knocked in the head by a lead pipe and scraping her knee and only damaging the knee part, the kneecap. The stockings immaculate. Again, I go back to that. The stockings were immaculate. Okay. You're telling me that Mind Stone can be undone if somebody taps you in the head hard enough? Really?
Well,
I wish they did that to Dr. Selvig, because I still forget he's in this movie. Go ahead, Chrissy.
So after again Loki's already escaped, then they thought about where would he go at this point, and Iron Man was the one who came to the conclusion that he wants a big show, he wants his name up in lights, blah blah blah, which automatically drew him to his own big newly brand spanking new tower with his name Stark written across it like the Trump Towers. And that's when we see that he goes back there and he sees not only Loki, but he sees Tesseract. His initial plan was to just destroy the Tesseract, but he's told that it's just pure power. He really can't do anything to it. So his Iron Man suit is already fucked up from when he tried to put the engine back together. It's all cut up. So he goes and he takes off his suit. You know, he takes off his armor. And he's talking with Loki, and Loki's like, "Look, this distraction. You're not going to buy yourself any time." He's like, "Look, I'm not trying to buy time. I'm threatening you. I'm telling you like what's really about to happen." He pours himself a drink, and while he's doing that, he attaches these bracelets, and that's when we kind of discover that he kind of found a solution to the issue that he had back in Iron Man 2 when he was like, "Give me the big box, bitch, because I'm about to die." He said, "I don't need to worry about that anymore. I got these bracelets." So Loki first attempts to mind control him the same way he does with Hawkeye, but because of the up reactor, he no longer has that tie to his heart for whatever reason. Whatever reason controls his mind. That's when Loki tries to throw him over. He throws him out the window, and the bracelets come into play. That's when they all the Iron Man suits start to reattach to Iron Man as he falls, and he becomes Iron Man yet again.
That seems awesome.
Here's why it wasn't awesome. Here's why it wasn't awesome. Number one, did anybody notice that his chest wasn't lit at all? What happened? All of the blue light went out? Where did it go?
What are you talking about? The chest was lit. You saw the blue light.
Go on YouTube right now and watch that scene and show me where his chest is lit.
He watched the movie earlier.
Huh?
Yeah. I saw the movie.
He watched the movie earlier.
Yeah, his chest was
If
lit.
you're right, I'll send you $10 on Cash App. His chest is not lit up in that scene at all.
Look, you know what? He already explained why his chest wasn't lit up. He was having performance issues. What else? The other reason why? What is the other reason why?
Let me finish.
It was not awesome.
Let me finish. Then he takes Diana's bracelets, Wonder Woman's bracelets, right? And he puts them on. And the God of Mischief doesn't notice that he's looking down, even though Loki is always looking at him. He doesn't notice that he's doing something like that.
Pouring a drink. He said, "Let me pour you a drink."
Pouring the drink. He turned around and poured a drink, and that's probably when he did it.
Yeah, that's probably. We're gonna make all the excuses we need to. Anyway, he grabs Tony, the superhumanly strong person, right? Grabs him by the throat and throws him through skyscraper glass.
Oh, here we go.
And he isn't knocked out.
That's true. That's odd.
Well, you know, Robert Downey Jr. actually did a very vigorous training for this movie, and because of that, he was able. No, I'm just saying. Because of that, he was able.
Did you look at that scene? Because I need that.
I saw the scene. Yes. First of all, you don't fall through skyscraper glass, as you so eloquently put it, that easily. That's one. You have to be shoved with a tremendous amount of force. So he should have had at least some cut or bruises or something. But
that's my point.
Would not have looked
He didn't
as
have a
cool
crack on
for
him,
the
and he
movie
was
if
awake.
they
He
did
was
that.
conscious.
So he
was
fell.
conscious.
He
How
fell
did he do
forward.
that? How did
And
he do
then
that? How did he do that? He threw him back first into the and smashed the window. And Robert Downey Jr. was like, "Okay, Jarvis, let's go." Ding, 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 ding. There's no limit.
I hope you know I'm using that clip for a commercial.
There's
I
no
just want to let you
You
know.
was like, you didn't see him earlier in the movie when he started putting all the little things inside of him
False.
for that whole purpose.
False. No physics. Physics. How did he fall from space? It makes no sense. Stop trying to make
We're not even talking about the space yet. So now Iron Man has a suit. What happens? What's the next scene that happens, Chrissy? Hold on. Let's get to the space scene. Let's get to the space scene. Go ahead, Chrissy.
I agree with Ricky.
Thank you. Exactly. Anything can happen. There's no such thing as rules anymore. There's no such thing as rules.
All right, Chrissy. Let's talk about this tremendous fight that happened in Avengers.
This is when the final fight scene comes after Iron Man suits up with his new and improved, bracelets. That's when the portal has been opened by Dr. Eric. And that's when all the what's it called, the Chitauri aliens or army starts to come through. Chitauri army starts to come through the portal.
Yeah, the scrolls.
That's when things really start getting crazy. They start wreaking havoc in what's New York at the time, but it's actually shot in Ohio. I found out later. But so during all of that chaos, that's when we get all the fight scenes between Black Widow and Hawkeye and the Chitauri army and all of that. Pretty much it. And also later on, that's when that big, I don't know if anybody remembers the name of it, but that big like ship monster thing comes out of the sky too.
Leviathan.
That big roach?
It's Leviathan.
Yeah, the Leviathan. Yeah, that's when that comes out of the sky as well.
Oh shit! What can Hawkeye's arrow do with that?
Apparently a lot, because he gets on his little Hawkeye angle view and he starts shooting things down like there's no tomorrow. He really helped Iron Man in one scene where he's like, look, I noticed that they can't really make sharp turns, and Iron Man started making all these sharp turns, and boom, there you go. So he added some things.
Hey Google.
Captain America. He was the first person Captain America gave a job to.
He was the first person Captain America gave a job to?
Yeah. He gave him a job first because he wanted to have all the because Hawkeye sees things better from afar. So he put him on a roof, and then Tony Stark just took him straight up there.
Or he wanted him out of the way because he could do nothing. Listen, here's my question, because we're getting to one of my favorite scenes with Hawkeye. When he's up on the roof and he's making quips, even though people are dying, but it's all fun and games. When people
Hold on, time out.
Magic.
Time out. Because I really want to hear what you have to say.
Wait a minute.
And I'm going to laugh over it. Because you made it sound like the battle for New York between the Chitauri and the Avengers was a Disney World ride. So
Listen,
okay, all right.
He's pulling out his arrows, okay, and he's making quips while people die because people are dying all around. And it's all fun and games. It's all fun and games, right? Except when his daughter disappears. She didn't scream. These New Yorkers, I don't know him. And he's firing and everything like that, right? And his arrows are so strong. Not only
he got frozen. Marvel, you know what? I always say this: one of the most powerful people in the world is Mickey Mouse. He don't like people talking bad about his characters. So,
but after that thing, that's when he fast forwarded to the part where Black Widow kind of hijacks one of those spaceships and makes her way over to Stark Towers, and she falls onto the roof or jumps onto the roof, and that's where Dr. Eric is. And this is where it becomes stupid to me, like this point where he comes into his senses. I guess he was knocked out with her. I don't know if she punched him or she ran into him or whatever. He remembers implanting in the Tesseract some kind of loophole back door that if you use the staff, it'll shut it down. So how is it that he remembers doing that, but Hawkeye can't remember anything as far as what he was doing while he was under, but Dr. Eric remembers, put it in this loophole solution to the Tesseract. That's the part that pissed me off.
If James was here, he'll refer you to his name set piece. They always have these nice little things added in to try to help the movie along, and that definitely was one of them.
Yes, and so after that scene, that's when, or it was either, I think it was after that scene. No, it was before that scene when Bruce Banner finally comes back, makes his way on this little moped back from wherever the hell he was with the security guard this whole time. And they mentioned something along the lines of, we really need some chaos right now. And if you could turn into the Hulk, we really appreciate it because we're getting our ass kicked. And he's like, look, no problem. He mentioned that his secret is that he's always angry. And then we get this cool scene. I can't click to it now because my device failed me, but it was this cool scene where he he turns and he finally punches the thing, and it was just an awesome scene. It was when we really get to see up close him turning from Bruce Banner to the Hulk. I thought that was a cool scene. Also, that's also when we learned, meanwhile, Fury is in talks with the Council of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they're like, look, we have no faith in this Avenger initiative. We need to just end it. We're going to send a missile. And Fury's like, look, y'all don't need to do that because we working things out as it is now. But they override him and they try to send this missile over to New York because they just about to flatten everything. Yeah, that's the way he's like, look, I'm always angry. But the S.H.I.E.L.D. Council is about to flatten everything. Agent Fury tries to come down and shoot things down with his one eye, but he misses one. And that's the missile, the plane that has the missile that's about to end New York. As the plane takes off, he gives Iron Man a heads up, like, look, we got a missile heading your way. I can't stop it. You got to stop it. Mm-hmm. So that's when we get we see the foreshadowing from earlier where Cap accuses Iron Man of not being able to put his life on the line. Well, Iron Man comes and he, once the missile starts coming, he tries to redirect the missile into the portal that was created by the Tesseract. And again, that's where we get to the scene that James was talking about, where he leads the missile upwards, but for whatever reason, after he leads it up, he falls back down. I'm assuming he's still within the gravitational pull of the Earth, and that's why he was able just to fall.
It surely didn't look like it to me.
Well, this is, plot devices and conveniences. But yeah, the
few of them in this one.
Before he falls down.
I mean, there could have been a little bit of a gravitational pull from the portal, through the portal, because he never really went away from the portal area or from the portal vicinity. So, vicinity is a real estate term. So, since he stayed in the portal vicinity, there could have been some gravitational pull in order to pull him back down into Earth. Yeah. See, now what I don't understand is, like, why can't we just appreciate the way things look, and why do we have to get into like the science and the physics and all of these
because
things?
Actually, during the filming, they actually they had I guess they were being consulted by like some kind of science agency, so it should have made a little bit more sense than what it did. But I guess the scientists only had but so much say, and the writers kind of like had to override some things for the plot.
I mean, like, are the comic books that detailed?
Probably not.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I've never read the comics. You probably need.
They're definitely not. They're definitely not. But you have to understand, we're talking about some comic books they have to reboot so many times, because otherwise than that, Captain America will be, 140 years old, and Superman, God knows how old Superman is. So it's not always going to make sense. But there are certain things that, even though they don't make sense, you should try to make it as sensical as possible.
I mean, like,
Iron Man was definitely up in space and could not fall back, but that's fine because he saved all of us from being nuked. Or not all of us, all of you who live in New York, Vic, from being nuked. So, you owe your life to Iron Man, and nothing screams the city of New York like the state of Ohio.
I owe my life to Captain America and to Iron Man, because Captain America first stopped the ship from coming down not because he was scared of the pussy, but because he was a good guy.
But he was. And I'll tell you why. There was a scene where he saved a woman. and the rest of her friends because they were in the building. There was a scene where he saved the woman. The woman came out and gave him the look. You know what look I'm talking about. You know, your girl gives it to you every time you walk through the door. You know, gave the look. You know what I'm saying? Chrissy knows the look I'm talking about. It's the look that most people should give Chris Evans. Gave him the look, and he turned the other way and started fighting. But he didn't get the memo from Hawkeye. That's all fun and games if people are dying. So he should have went on and he should have talked to this woman and got the digits.
But here's
he might not have a cell phone yet.
Here's the thing, though. He probably just learned about STD because he was in front of Can you imagine? Like, look, can you imagine people? And look, I remember people telling me back in 1982 when AIDS first came out how scared they were, how nobody wanted to fuck. So he was probably like that. You know, he's probably.
You know why you make a valid point? Because even with super serum, when it burns, it burns.
Oh my God!
Exactly. Super serum ain't gonna stop an immune system thing. It's like coronavirus.
To be led astray by the likes of Beth and the waitress, whatever the heck she was. He was in love with Agent Carter still. That's where his
man's still the quintessential human. I mean, superhero.
Right. He was in love. He wanted his girl. The girl that he spent time with, the girl that he wanted to have conversations with, the girl that he wanted to get wrinkled.
The girl that is so old that she's in a nursing home and can't even have sex because she gets dry down here. Look, let me try to tell you something. The reason how come he was stuck on her is because he could not do anything. You're going to realize that Captain America, even though he's a stand-up guy, he's afraid of women. It's fine. He is gay.
You notice
he needs to change his colors from red, white, and blue to red, white, blue, pink, yellow, and any other color of the rainbow.
First of all, did you notice how his face glowed when he saw his number one gal? Okay, because he can relate to her. She's on his side. He can relate to her, bro.
He can use her as a cover and not have to worry about her nagging him for sex. That's why.
Well, again, so after Iron Man comes back down.
My internet had cut off and I came back mid thing. Did you get to when Iron Man was flying through space? Did you get to that part?
you knew he was way on that.
I think I heard Vic say that why did they have to make these movies so science-based? I don't know. Maybe because the character in question that we're talking about, his whole point is science-based. All throughout the movie, they're talking about the science of gamma radiation. These movies, that's what I said in the beginning when everybody looked at me like I was just some zealot. And I was saying, listen, every film has to have its own rules and it has to stick to them. You can't play fast and loose. Why? Because later when the stakes are high, they won't mean anything. This is what I'm referring to in the same movie. If you tell me that you're in outer space, and clearly he was in outer space because that's where the mothership was. It wasn't in our atmosphere. It wasn't even in our galaxy, right? Mm-hmm. Theoretically, it was somewhere in another galaxy, right? And the nuclear bomb continues to fly up there. He should have just been flying straight to the mothership because the inertia would have taken him there because there's no friction in space. That's something we learn in grade school, right? Even if I'm going to presume that he's just going to float, all of a sudden he's going to stop being moved forward for whatever reason because the thrusters on his armor come off. He shouldn't fall back to Earth. And if he's able to fall back to
maybe it could be the gravitational pull of Earth that pulled him down, possibly.
No. He's in space. And here's why I know that he's in space, because he passes out, because he can't breathe, which is we see it's called back when he makes the suit for Parker, right? That he can breathe, because remember Peter Parker's in that suit and he's falling unconscious and he lets go of the ship. Why? Because it's not even in space yet. It's in the upper atmosphere where the air is thin, right? So he gives him the suit that has a breather in it, right? Where did he learn that? In this first Avengers. Do you see what I'm saying? So if he can't breathe, then he was in space. He passes right out.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So make it make sense. And to that point, when he falls back to Earth, right? And he's caught he's falling like a rock, right? From upper atmosphere, right? How is his back not broken? His back should have been broken.
It should have been broken.
It should have snapped in half. The Hulk was not ginger with it. And Thor was trying to wait so that he can catch him gingerly and fly off with him to go with the inertia. But the Hulk just caught him and bashed him into a building and then body slammed him on the ground. That's a valid point. The other thing that I missed when my internet cut out suspiciously all of a sudden was
Mickey's watching.
When Barton is on the rooftop and his regular arrows are going through armor that Tony Stark said Jarvis told Tony Stark, you would run out of energy against the armor. But Barton literally, his arrow bored through the armor of the ship. How is their Earth-based technology when Nick Fury early in the movie said we realized that we were woefully inadequate, right? Just by seeing the Devastator and by seeing what he did in that New Mexico town, right? How is it that the arrow is going to go through alien armor that we know that Thanos uses to conquer worlds?
Maybe he has vibranium arrows.
Stop it. You know it doesn't make any sense. And when you defend the nonsensical, it makes the movie look bad. We know that they could have done better. That's my point, because they could have done better. Do you see what I'm saying? And more to the point, here's when I was bringing up Black Widow early in the film, and people again were looking at me like, why am I being so nitpicky about it? It's because when Barton jumps from the rooftop where he's at, you remember when he runs out of arrows and he makes the grappler arrow, right? And he shoots it and he swings through and he goes through the window and he falls, right? Mm-hmm. He's out of commission. That's how the actor plays it, right? Like that took a lot out of him. How is Black Widow doing all this stuff and homegirl's not out of breath? Steve Rogers, when he gets blasted, right? Steve Rogers, the superhuman with superhuman strength, superhuman endurance, and superhuman healing, because we saw that in the first Avenger movie, the first Captain America movie, right? Superhuman healing. Thor says, "Are you up for another bout?" And he's breathing heavy. Black Widow never breathes heavy, so it takes away from the character because it's making her like what do they call it? Something Sue or something like that. Like she could do anything instead of showing no, she's working for every one of those kills. She's putting in that work. You see what I'm saying? That's my point, because she is badass enough to be on that team with all these superpowered beings, because she's that one. Do you see what I'm saying? That's my point about Barton and why Chris was making fun of Barton. If he's going to be on a team with superpower beings, they have to show us in the film that he is worthy of that. And in the first Avengers movie, they didn't. Why is he there? But Black Widow, every time they do it, we saw with the disrespect with Loki, all of a sudden he's disrespecting her, even though he just gave her props, even though she outsmarted him twice in the same scene. Do you see what I'm saying? And she's doing everything. She's doing more than Steve Rogers does, and Steve Rogers is out of breath. And going to Steve Rogers now, because we skipped this part because I wasn't in it. Sorry about that. When Chris was talking about when he's fighting for that bomb, that grenade, alien grenade or whatever like that, right? And he scrambles for it, and the alien throws it. Steve Rogers jumps up and he hides behind it, and he gets blasted out of the window. I have a question. Didn't we just see this fool get hit how many times with concussive blast? How many times by Thor? And he didn't move a muscle. Mm-hmm. He didn't flex a muscle. He took it like a G. And you're telling me an alien grenade blew him out onto the car outside? How does that make sense?
James, speaking of making sense, this viewer here has a question I want you to answer. Side piece of Star Wars, when they're in space, do you say to yourself they aren't really in space, it's just CGI?
Can you show that one more time?
Sure, I can.
I want everybody on the panel to look at this question. Side piece in Star Wars, when they're in space, do you say to yourself they aren't really in space, it's just CGI? Clearly this person wasn't listening, or they don't understand what I'm talking about. Here's physics. In space, there's no friction. Friction means, for instance, if I shoot a bullet in space, theoretically, right, the bullet does not stop unless it hits a foreign body that is able to stop it. If it hits a foreign body that is also in motion and doesn't have the same mass, right, it will push that one to move too. And it would do that in perpetuity. That means forever. Okay. So when he's using his booster rockets to break Earth orbit, that's what it's called. When you use booster rockets, the same thing when we fly the shuttle up into space and they have those big fires on the bottom, those are booster rockets. That's what it's called, right? That's to break Earth orbit. You need a certain amount of thrust to break Earth orbit. That's why Tony, he could barely move the missile, and he had to use everything he did, and that's why he scraped the side of Stark Tower. Do you remember that, if you were watching the movie? Okay. And he uses that, and the thrust takes him all the way through the portal and way up close to the mothership almost, right? Now, he starts falling before any concussive wave that we're going to say in space, even though since there's no oxygen, there would be no concussive wave in space. Do you understand that? It's not a real movie. Then why are we reviewing it and why do you care? Do you see my point?
Ricky say it's not real, it's a movie, it's make believe, is just accept the fact that it's a movie.
Then I can say Black Widow could beat Hulk.
And Black Widow can beat Hulk. That's why they fell in love.
How could Black Widow? She's just a woman. She couldn't beat Hulk. He would be the first one to say that, right? It's just a movie. Do you see what I'm saying? We're dissecting films. That's the point. That's why I'm here. I was asked to come here to dissect the films. And now when I'm giving you a cogent point, more than one, by the way, there's no defense to the logic. This is what the movie itself said. I'm not making it up. I'm not writing the script saying, yeah, this sounds movie. No, I didn't do that. That's what they did. That's what I.
We're gonna have Joss Whedon on the show one day, and you two can talk about the rules of physics.
Marvel doesn't want to talk to Joss Whedon. That's why he's out of here. How do you have the fastest one get bullets? Explain it to me. Oh, it's just a movie. It's just a movie.
Who are you talking about? Quicksilver?
The whole beginning of the movie when they're setting up how cool he is and the visual scenes, because we're always talking about it looks so
because
cool.
He didn't have his earpods on.
In the beginning of the movie when they're showing how cool it is and everybody's in a war zone and everybody's making jokes and Tony, stop cursing because I'm from the 1940s, even though colored people are my equals and I believe that women now can be the president. Okay, even though and nobody gets shot, and Barton with his magic arrows, he's getting his ass beat by a teenager. Why? Because the teenager is fast. That's what they did, and they did that. Why? Because it looks cool. One, this is the problem. It looks cool. One, and two, because they need to establish the character's power level, right? That he's a force to be reckoned with, so that when he goes up against Captain America later in the train, we're like, oh, well, who's going to win because he's so fast? And we saw what he did to Barton, and Barton could do anything with his magic arrows, right?
They're not magic.
It's not. It just can do anything to alien technology. So then,
Howard Stark,
when he gets hit with bullets, which should be nothing to him, okay, they should be cotton balls to somebody moving that fast. He dies, but Barton doesn't get hit at all.
Because he doesn't have his AirPods in. If he had his AirPods in, he would have been. Let
me apologize to everybody. Let me give Ricky his respect. It's just a movie.
It's just a movie that happened in 2012. So let's get off Avengers 2 because we'll review that in a couple weeks.
Loki can beat Odin, and then he can beat Hela because it's just a movie. No. Tony wasn't starving. Tony wasn't starving to death. Tony wasn't starving to death in space and needed rescue. No, he was just working out and losing a lot of weight. It's just a movie. It's just a movie. And Captain America wasn't about to die when he's fighting Thanos.
Yeah, can we get
Thanos at the beginning of the movie, but they wanted to wait till the end of the movie and make everybody else die because some people die because it's just a movie. So Ricky, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah. Let's finish up on this movie. Let's finish up on this movie before my phone dies because StreamYard's a mother. So Chrissy, go ahead and wrap us up with this movie.
You're the man. You're the man, and I apologize.
He comes back to Earth and he's awake and back alive. We're never done.
Stop, James.
Something along the lines of something about getting shawarma. There's a shawarma place, and what's next or something. That whole thing was completely improvised, and that led us to one of the end scenes after all the credits, where we see them in the actual shawarma restaurant, which was cool. And apparently they shot that like months or after the film was already closed or finished, and they went back and shot that. I thought that was interesting. But then we finally get our first cameo of Stan Lee at the end of the movie when they're talking about how the Avengers rescued everybody, and you see him in the park playing chess with some other old men. Well, superheroes in New York, whatever. So I thought it was cute that they actually left his cameo to the end of the movie because we didn't see him throughout the whole movie.
You see them
and that also brings us to the Beth character, who was the woman in the final fight scene. She was like the civilian woman, but we kept seeing her face, the blonde girl. And I looked up to see like what was her backstory. It seemed like maybe she turns into like some other superhero or something, but apparently there's really no backstory to her. I've read a couple Reddit comments so saying that she's possibly Captain America's granddaughter in some universe, but that wasn't really verified. So
Stop, Jinx. Let it go. Let it go.
I
So
agree, because they don't think it
the
happened.
movie ends. The
Wait,
movie
hang on a
ends.
second. How is she
Holding.
the granddaughter if he was scared of the pussy?
well, it was a Reddit.
Well, that's why it's a rumor.
It wasn't verified.
That's why. That's why it's a rumor. It was fan fiction, probably started by him himself to make it seem like he wasn't. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the cameo at the end, which sets up phase 2. Let's talk about that real quick, Chrissy.
Okay. So the first wait, which camera that talks are you talking about when Thor not Thor Thanos was shown at the end of the credits?
Yes, when purple Thanos was shown. Yeah,
Thanos. I actually have a clip, but my laptop has died, so I can't click on it. But we do see Thanos for the first time ever in the MCU during this film, and apparently that Thanos was played by another actor.
Correct.
Who wasn't brought back for the Infinity War storyline, but yeah, he looked a little different.
Did you find out why?
No. Why?
Do you want to know why?
Why?
All right. Can you put that picture back up, Vic? That's why. Look how corny and cheesy.
Honestly, if it wasn't for the color, like the color's off, but other than that, I feel like he looked.
That's why. That's why. You stood up and cheered because you were surprised to see him and you were surprised to see Thanos. But looking back at it now, you're like, wow. He looks like a good villain for a Smurf. But it wasn't going to work for any of the Avengers movies here. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the Avengers. I mean, hey, before we go to final thoughts, which should take another 3 hours. But before we go into final thoughts, let's talk about the fact that this movie was not a bad movie. I mean, it was successful. Got an 8.0 on IMDb.com. It made $1.517 billion worldwide, 632 of it coming from the United States. The highest grossing movie of 2012. This movie was a big success and honestly changed ensemble movies going forward, which I'll talk more about when I give my final thoughts. But we'll go around and we'll give each other's final thoughts. And we're always going to start off with ladies first because that's how we do it here. And that's what Black Widow taught me in Avengers. So, Chrissy, what are your final thoughts for this movie?
Okay, so I give this movie a thumbs up. I really enjoyed this movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Even though there are some plot holes, but I feel like the action of it kind of distracts you from pretty much all the plot conveniences. I think that it was very well acted. Of course, it was very popular. Like you said, it broke box office records at that time. And yeah, I love it. I enjoyed rewatching it. It was just as exciting as it was the first time for me. I really liked it. Thumbs up.
Vic.
Well, it kind of brings you back to the stories of the other movies. Unfortunately, I don't think you can necessarily just watch this movie alone. I think it's best to watch all the other movies first. And at the time, I thought that this movie was a culmination of a story with all the other movies, but it seemed like the beginning of a story by the time that you were finished watching it. So I really enjoyed it back then and once again because now I have the same feeling that I had before. Like I want to go watch Iron Man 3.
Mm-hmm. So
Iron Man 3.
Oh yeah, thumbs up basically. Yeah.
James, we're on you.
All right, so far be it from me to have Ricky thinking that I'm mad at him or anything like that. No, I'm just passionate about film. I'm messing with you, and I'm also messing with Chris because he knows I'm just going off on tangents and everything like that. I'm always going to review movies not based on what I thought about the movie, like whether I liked it or not. It was one of my favorites, but based on what they showed me in the film, right? So is this movie good? Do I give it thumbs up or thumbs down? Well, it depends on what you're going into this movie wanting. If you want a bunch of set pieces, as I put my name to be, then yeah, a movie has a lot of set pieces. If you're going in for it to have a tight script, no, it doesn't. Was there a need for this movie other than to set up other things? No, let's be honest. it's just a setup piece, but it was an enjoyable setup piece, right? And I'm not taking anything away from it by pointing out those flaws along with the things that I think it got right. It had a bunch of great set pieces strung together that made a coherent enough story to get $1.517 billion. I don't always think that box office returns denote what a good movie is. I think there are a lot of great movies that don't make any money, that never bring in a return, and a lot of them are slept on. So that to me doesn't make it. Is it out of all the ones leading up to the Avengers itself my favorite? No, it's not. Is it my favorite out of all the Avengers movies? No, it isn't. But it has a lot of action set pieces. It's a lot of what ifs that you had as a kid growing up, and I think that's what sells this movie a lot. So I'm gonna refrain from giving it a thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm gonna say it was enjoyable though. It's not something that I wouldn't watch, but even when I was rewatching it, I found myself kind of trailing off. To be honest.
All right. So my personal opinion is I'm going to give this movie a thumbs up. I thought, at the time, I would have to reevaluate now. It was actually one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. Once again, this movie, however, was 8 years ago, and there's been a plethora of comic book movies since then. And looking back, as Chrissy so eloquently said, as well as James followed up with it, there are a lot of holes in this movie that I can pick apart. Therefore, I'm not sure it's still in my top 5, but probably is. However, that being said, definitely a thumbs up. It was a very enjoyable movie from beginning to end, and it's groundbreaking. And that's the movie. I mean, that's one word that I really think we should utilize when it comes to this movie. James said he doesn't really particularly care about the box office returns, and I completely agree with him. I've seen a lot of bombs that I thought were good movies. However, at the same time, this movie was the fastest growing movie to $200 million, which it did in 3 days. It made $1.517 billion, which became the third highest grossing movie globally before a whole bunch of other movies surpassed it. So this movie set up, I believe, what blockbuster movies were supposed to be going forward. It made every movie try to outdo this movie. What can we do to make over $1 billion? Because it was pretty much unheard of to do it that much up until Avengers. It created a different way of looking at ensemble cast. How can you put a whole bunch of stars into one movie and give them all, minus Black Widow and Hawkeye, a role in the movie? And it did a very good job with that visually. It was pretty good. Cost $220 million to make, and I can't say, hey, I don't see where the money went. I do have other issues with the movies that we'll talk about when I get to Justice League, or actually any DC movie, simply because of the fact that there were a lot of things that they did in this movie that DC gets crapped on, where Marvel did the exact same thing. And I definitely want to talk about that. But thumbs up from me. Did enjoy it. One of my favorites off the top of my head. And and this, just give it a lot of credit. And this is why we've talked about it for the last 2 hours and 13 minutes.
Yeah, the whole movie. We've talked about it as long as the movie was.
I think you made a great point when you said that it really is a new era in films, because when you think about it, what is it, 77, 78 or whatever, when the first Jaws movie came out, or 75 or something like that. And then from that movie, that's where the term blockbuster comes from. And then you jump to 2012, and this is when the $1 billion blockbuster
it
took it to another, it's a new generation.
It's hard. I used to easily be able to tell you what the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time was during that time. I can't anymore, because every year something else seems to get there. Star Wars Force Awakens came out, and Star Wars started doing crazy. And that's when Walt says, hey, I want this, I want this, I want this. You don't want to sell me this? How much? Write your own figure. So give credit to where it's due when it comes to.
Like, Terminator 2 was considered a massive hit.
Terminator 2 was a groundbreaking movie too, yes.
That's like maybe 200, 300 million, but compared to nowadays, 200.
But it was also the most expensive movie ever made up until then.
No. But my point is that, like, if you came out with a movie, even though it made $300 million today, it would be considered a failure. You know what I mean?
It would be considered
living in the age of Avengers.
Fun fact: Terminator 2 came out in the year 1992, and its graphics still holds up today.
Yes, it does.
I think that we also have to consider the fact that the experience of going to the movies is completely different from what it used to be.
Okay.
It's so a lot more expensive, and also they're not necessarily filling the theater with as many people as you used to. At least here in New York, everything is recliner chairs now. Everything is Kind of like it's a little bit. There's a lot of theaters now that are kind of like restaurant feel, where you have a menu and they come and they bring you things to your seat and things like that. So like people are spending a lot more money than they have before. And then the other thing is that like movies, in my opinion, they're being made better because now, these people literally have to compete with apps. They have to, because a lot of movies, and honestly, like there's a lot of movies that I'll watch a cam version just to see it prior to go to the movies to see if it's worth it. And that's a very big part of the culture now. So, when it comes to these really, really high numbers, I got a feeling that it's because of the level of anticipation. Because when it comes to Avengers 1, that was a really, really, really highly anticipated movie for the time because it was something that never really happened. And the only other movie that received that level of anticipation, in my opinion, was Endgame. Because especially the way that the first movie, the Infinity War ended, and where everybody turns into dust, like that just left you at the edge of your seat. So I mean, look, I saw it in Syracuse like a week later in an empty theater at 2 a.m. It was insane. Like that movie was, I mean, I guess we'll speak more on that when we get to it because we're already at 2 hours and 16 minutes. But I just to make the point, I've never seen anticipation for another movie like that since. So that whole situation is awesome.
All right, guys. Most of us enjoyed the movie. It seemed to be mostly thumbs up. So yeah, I liked it. Thanks for watching, guys.
Great.
We all like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to give us a thumbs up, we'll greatly appreciate by hitting that like button down there, whether you're watching through YouTube or Facebook. Definitely hit that like button and share this video to everywhere that you know and tell them about these 4 people who go back and forth over these movies, whether we find it too fake or too realistic. It is always a good time, and we always appreciate you watching us and are participating in the comments. If you're continuing to like this series of UPR Entertainment, please join us on Saturday at, I believe we said 2 o'clock for unpopular reviews. Iron Man 3, the first movie of Phase 3, I believe. Iron Man 3 starring Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark as he goes against the Mandarin. Be quiet, James. As he goes against the Mandarin in this movie. If you're a fan of us from wrestling, UPR Wrestling, join us tomorrow at 8 o'clock p.m. for Unpopular Reviews NXT AEW edition, which odds are if you're a fan of wrestling, you're not even watching us right now because both of these shows are going on right now. But tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, you can watch the technician David Sanderson, bad guy Jack Ronald Jackson, and the Mark Victor Rodriguez as they bring to you all the action of NXT AEW. On Friday, we have Unpopular Reviews, Dark Side of the Ring, with myself, Katrina Storm, and the Mark Victor Rodriguez, as we'll be talking about the cocaine levels of world wrestling, period. And on Saturday morning, the Will Team Dream, myself, and the Big Daddy Cool, Stephen Pena, will bring to you SmackDown edition of Unpopular Reviews. That's pretty much all I have, except for I should say something about, oh yeah, that's right. This Sunday, we have Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and immediately after Money in the Bank, Bad Guy Jack, as well as Big Daddy Cool Stephen Pena, are going to bring you the action when it comes to that and to give you all the results with that. And then Tuesday, Tech Talk with David Sanderson and Victor Rodriguez. And I'm not sure what they're going to talk about yet, but they're going to give you some information. So stay tuned to UPR Yep ILW on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as Facebook. So follow us everywhere at UPR Yep ILW. So for the Mark Victor Rodriguez, for whoever his name is this week, Goop, it was so far my favorite set piece, as well as C the Superior, who's broken some hearts tonight from what I saw in the comments. We're so glad that you joined us, and have a very good night, ladies and gentlemen.
See ya.